Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Market Open. It is Thursday, May 28th, and we are officially live. Guys, we have 3 days left of the month of May. It's kind of unbelievable when you really, I woke up today and realized it was May 28th. It is going to be June. Whoa, why is American Airlines down? American Airlines is down 3%. U.S. DHS Secretary Mullins' agency could soon stop processing international travelers at Newark Airport over immigration dispute. We're not going to let anyone into the country. Okay, airlines should be down right now. But anyway, we got a couple days left of May, which is absolutely crazy as we enter into the month of June. There you go. American Airlines right there, down about 3.5%. United, is that down as well? United is also down as well. Nothing happens in the market other than more and more breaking headlines, which means everything happens in the market right here. Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for being here. Again, a couple days left in May. It is just absolutely insane to realize that we are ending the 5th month of the year and getting into June. 6 months left of 2026. It feels like 2026 has been an absolute blur given how red we were and then how green we've become. And, it's quite incredible to witness how much has happened in the markets over the past few months, but also how much is left to happen in the markets over the coming months as well. And the summer is not going to be silent given all the different headlines and updates we have. Kevin Warsh is the new Fed chair. Obviously, we have another earnings cycle that we'll be entering into in a couple of weeks. And we will once again run this back and see if CapEx continues to live up to expectations and then kind of see where the market ends up going from there. S&P 500 is flat right now. If you were up late last night around 1, 2 a.m., I was awake for... I don't know why I was awake, but I was awake. Markets were red. There were some headlines that we got to talk about in regards to Iranian strikes. It's not necessarily the best news. Bitcoin took a bit of a tumble last night, falling below 73,000. Right now, we are at 73,431. We are well below the 81,000 that we were at last week. So obviously, Bitcoin being treated as the collateral damage from the geopolitical updates we got last night. Spiked up oil as well. We got some GDP data this morning. We got some PCE data this morning. Oil right there up about 2.27%. The data is not amazing, but it's also not as horrible as PPI and CPI that we got last week. So, I don't really know what to expect from markets today because you got red across the board. Obviously, I think a lot of people were expecting some red given how many green days we've had going into last week as well. Obviously, we've had some vertical moves across the semiconductor ecosystem, but part of the reason for the red is because of more instability around if we're going to get this deal with Iran done. Trump did not give any clarifications yesterday in the cabinet meeting when he said that we're not going to be giving them sanctions relief, which in my opinion would be a big red flag to the Iranians, which, want sanctions relief. That's, part of the core reason why they're trying to agree to this deal. So time will tell. We're going to see what ends up happening. But as of now, this is what we got. And we will keep taking a look at how the market officially plays out into these coming months. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Mike, Benny, June, what's up? Chels, thank you for being here. Wong, what's up? Wong said, I came from Cactus's channel. I'm looking at Cactus's post right now where he said, join the Market Open stream. Which one of you reacted with the rainbow emoji? Which one of you guys reacted with the rainbow? That is, if that becomes a thing every time he posts about me, rainbow emoji. You guys are funny. You guys are very, very funny, huh? Rainbow emoji. Anyway, who did it? Now there's 3 people that are doing it. I can see it in real time. Get updated. We better not make that a thing, bro. You guys have not made that a thing for a while. I think you guys did it like once in 2023, and now it's gonna freaking. Now there's 18 rainbow. Okay, so this is what we're doing now. Every time he posts about it, this is what we're doing. Scott, what's up? Laura, what's up? Foghorn. David, Eric, Wong, what's up? What's up? What's up? Paul Stevenson, Zocold, it's a thing. Oh my gosh, it's a thing now. You can't just spam it randomly though. There has to be a reason to spam it. So now that you guys have figured out something new to spam, it has to happen when there's a moment to spam it, not just for the hell of it. So use your power wisely. That's just so hilarious. Now there's 50 people, 56. This is quite incredible. This is quite incredible. Thanks, Cactus. Appreciate you, buddy. Appreciate it. All right, let's get into it and let's get started for the day. So what happened last night with Iran? Well, we striked one of their military bases. The reason for that was because we wanted to clear up some of the issues with the Strait of Hormuz. And then, well, Iran struck back. And as a result of that striking back and forth, that's where you had the market get a little scared. Here's an update on exactly what happened last night.
A significant development overnight after Iran launched drones toward a commercial vessel attempting to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. A U.S. official tells Fox News that 4 one-way attack drones posed a threat and were shot down. Then a strike was also conducted against a control station near the city of Bandar Abbas that was about to launch a 5th drone. In response, the Iranians launched a drone and missile attack against Kuwait, targeting a U.S. base there, according to Iran's IRGC. Now, the Kuwaitis confirmed an attack on their territory that did trigger sirens. The exchange of fire comes amid efforts to reach a deal between the United States and Iran.
So basically, the U.S. attacked a military base they thought was under threat that was near the Strait of Hormuz, and then Iran attacked a U.S. military base in Kuwait. And so that is what caused the sell-off that we saw last night and the sell-off that we saw in Bitcoin. I don't know how long-lived this is actually going to be, because right now, again, it's this tit-for-tat game. Like the real big tell last night was when Trump said he's not going to negotiate by giving up the sanctions, or maybe that was his way of negotiating by not agreeing to give sanctions relief. And I think they are trying to prove who's boss in the middle of intense negotiations. Remember, Sunday night when the market passed 7,500 for the first time in the futures and oil tanked below 90, and we just had all this momentum and we had all these stocks end up going green going into Monday and Tuesday. It was because of this idea that the market had interpreted, okay, the war is officially over. Like, it's like we are getting ready to the point where we're going to get peace. And over the past couple of days, that's not necessarily been the case. I think the sentiment of the war inevitably ending is enough for the market to move on and not take this as seriously. I know, stocks are down a little bit in the pre-market. Oil's up 2%, but it's not like oil's at 110. It's not like Bitcoin's at 50,000. The sentiment is not as aggressive as it was in the middle of March when they played this strategy over and over again, going tit for tat on different strikes, and Iran, attacking U.S. allies in the Middle East to be able to send a message. All this, like, it's the same playbook that we've seen again. The market's witnessed it again. I don't think the market cares. And as a result of the market not caring that much, I think inevitably we're going to move on from it, and hopefully it won't be that big of a deal. So we'll put the green or red poll in the chat, and I'm curious what people think. I wonder if really we end up going red today based on these attacks back and forth with Iran and the United States. And if that does happen, I don't know, dude. It would just be, honestly, I think people would be like, okay, cool, we needed a red day. So I don't even think people would be that upset. But I also wonder, is that actually going to be enough to create a dip? The S&P 500 barely down in the pre-market, although Bitcoin is taking a bit of a hit. Now, we did get macro data. So PCE and GDP growth. The U.S. PCE price index increased 0.4% month over month in April 2026, less than market expectations after a 0.7 rise in March. Headline PCE was 3.8. Expectations were 3.8, but this is also the highest level since May of 2023. So that could be another reason, along with the Iran, Kuwait, U.S. strikes that we're experiencing right now. You got high inflation, but not higher inflation than what the market expected, which is important. And then these geopolitical issues that could cause a little bit of red going into the market open. Now, the bigger piece of data today in terms of macro outside of inflation was GDP. So GDP came in at 1.6%, which was a revision down. The first read was 2%, and so we actually came in lower than 2% for Q1.
Let's start with what we saw with GDP for the first quarter. We're coming in with a rate of 1.6%. So this is a revision down for first quarter GDP. The first read was 2%. Now we're coming down with the second read of 1.6%. And that is actually below the range of 1.7 to 2.2.
So again, not the best GDP growth, inflation not amazing either. And then these geopolitical strikes with Iran, Kuwait, and the United States. That is what's leading to some of this red, and obviously Bitcoin coming down. Now, Trump really tried his best to pump Bitcoin yesterday. He said Gary Gensler, this is what he tweeted at about 7 p.m., and the anti-crypto army nearly destroyed the American crypto industry by driving Bitcoin, crypto perpetuals, and innovation offshore, but Trump saved it. America is now the crypto capital of the world, and builders and entrepreneurs are coming back to the United States where they belong. Under my leadership, we will codify a future-proof digital asset market structure that cannot be undone by the crypto haters. I really want Trump to be able to do what he says he's trying to do, codify crypto legislation, because I don't know if we're ever going to get another crypto-friendly administration the way that we're getting it right now. Even if you get a Republican who comes to office who says he's down with the cause when it comes to crypto, because Trump's personal money and his family's money is invested in crypto. And so the next 2 years, which, the midterms are really important, right? To be able to get this stuff passed, I think are the best shot for the crypto bulls to be able to get real digital assets regulations and frameworks set in stone. For example, perpetual futures, which are an incredible product in the derivatives market, they're banned in the US. And the fact that they're banned in the US is absolutely insane. So across the entire world, people can use perps, but not in the United States. And it's like the United States is where a lot of the crypto innovation is happening in the first place. So I really hope Trump is able to get this done. Obviously, it would be very good for Bitcoin. But as of now, the geopolitical strikes, the inflation data, the GDP miss, probably all of that coming together is why Bitcoin is getting hit. And quite frankly, look at the S&P. It's barely red in the pre-market. It's actually up by a couple cents. You got some stocks that are red, some stocks that are green. We'll talk about some of the earnings that happened yesterday. Bitcoin is the one that gets used, not even gold or silver, but Bitcoin is the one that gets used to be a trading vehicle. I mean, gold is flat, silver is down 1% when something happens geopolitically. So I think the reaction we're seeing right here is less about Trump and his crypto agenda and more about what happened last night with Iran. But, hopefully we get some real crypto legislation. We're not going to have this much pain. Ethereum as well getting hit right there. Below 2019.88. By the way, the Trump accounts officially go live today. The Trump accounts officially go live today on Robinhood, Schwab, Fidelity, all that stuff. So you will see those Trump accounts coming out pretty soon. Speaking of Trump, we got two other big updates. We'll talk about the drone stocks in a second, but this just came out right now. The Trump administration is designing a $250 bill, as per the Washington Post. If this is launched, President Trump would be on the currency, and he would be the first person since 1866 to be on a U.S. currency who is also living. Wow. $250. That would be, well, we don't have anything higher than 100. So, I mean, if he does this, can he please save crypto? Like if he's going to put his face on a bill for eternity, if he could just save crypto, that would be nice as well. But there you go. This is not fake. This report is as per the Washington Post. Now, maybe their reporting is wrong, but this was reported a year ago. If you guys remember, this was reported last summer. So I imagine they're probably making progress on this. And, it seems like this might end up happening. And if it is, then it is what it is. Hopefully non-fiat currency can also benefit from this. Outside of that, the drone stocks are up today. Why are the drone stocks up? Trump is pumping the drone stocks. So first it was Intel, then it was rare earths, then it was quantum. Now it's drone stocks. The United States government, as per reporting of last night, is in talks to fund multiple drone companies across the entire ecosystem. The Trump administration is in talks to fund U.S. drone companies, as per the Wall Street Journal. The potential deals follow months of discussions between a diverse set of private sector drone companies and the Pentagon. The People said the discussions have included the Office of Strategic Capital, a lending office set up by the Biden administration. The deal talks are still in negotiation phase. The People caution and Pentagon deal makers are continuing to vet the companies before finalizing any terms. That's why Kratos, Ondas, AeroVironment, UMAC, all of these companies are greeny green in the pre-market. Ondas right there, that's up 8%. You got Kratos, that's up 13.6%. AeroVironment, that's up 10.4%. UMAC, Unusual Machines, that is up 31.2%. By the way, Redwire, a decent chunk of their revenue, people don't know, is from drones. That stock's down 3% because all the space stocks are down, but that company theoretically could be in the talks in order to benefit from the drone funding. So I think if the drone funding is legit, which why wouldn't it be? We just went through a war that we're kind of still currently in. The Trump administration probably realized, hey, like the next time this happens, which inevitably it will happen again, we need to be prepared. We need to have the best AI associated with hardware technology in the context of autonomous warfare. We should probably fund these companies. I mean, Andrew has said if we got into a conflict with China, we would, in like a couple months, we would have no more ammunition. So, it's already known that we need to increase the stockpile. There are companies in the United States that are, willing to do that, have already shown their execution. Maybe this is a theme going into the summer because the day they actually announce we're giving $200 million to Ondas and $1 billion to AeroVironment or something like that, I think these stocks are up even more. Red Cat, yep, that was already up 9% yesterday. It's up another 18% right there in the pre-market. So, this might be an investigate. Just buy your favorite drone stock and hold it. And it would obviously be following Trump. You would be ignoring valuation, ignoring sort of the core elements of due diligence. But following Trump has not necessarily failed in the past, except if you have the meme coin. The meme coin didn't end up working. Yeah, Arrow, that was another one that was a IPO last year. That's up 12%. This is a $220 million company, right? So a lot of these companies are pretty small too, which means if the Trump administration were to buy shares in them, you could see a bigger pump happening in some of these other ones. Okay, let's talk about some of the headlines that we had last night and get through the earnings. First of all, Nabesis. This hit 240 last night. It's 230 right here. Why is Nabesis pumping the way that it is? Leopold is in. Leopold is in. So this is the guy who was known for his early calls on Bloom Energy, SanDisk, and Intel, and CoreWeave. He used to work at OpenAI, got fired, started a hedge fund. His wife works at Anthropic. The guy knows what he's talking about when it comes to AI infrastructure. That has been his biggest bet for the past 3 years. And so when he takes a position, Wall Street really listens, right? Now, the interesting thing about this is he couldn't have bought it in Q1 because it would have had to have been disclosed 2 weeks ago, which means he probably bought it after March 30th, which is sometime in April and May. The reason he had to disclose now is because it became 5.6% of his fund, which is 12.1 million shares. So we don't know exactly what his average is. I would assume it's somewhere around the 150s to 160s, maybe a little bit less than that. If he bought a little late, then it's probably 180s, 190s, but it's likely a couple $1 billion stake in the fund. And it's really rewarding, I think, to the Nebius shareholders because he's had CoreWeave, he's had Wolf, he's had Applied Digital, he's had Cores, he's had IREN. He's never had Nebius, but Nebius is the one that has executed, one could argue, better than all those companies. So when it comes to NeoClouds, not only has he made a position in Nebius, I also think he potentially might end up resolving the beef between Nebius and IREN shareholders. Why do I say that? Because the guy has both. He has both. So it's like, he's big on IREN. That one hasn't really popped in the way that people would think it would pop yet. He's buying Nebius later than he did, than most retail investors did. And so I think the guy is super bullish on Nebius, IREN, and CoreWeave. Quite frankly, there shouldn't be any beef between all three of them. But the broader story, the takeaway here is that he is really bullish on compute constraints. Now, this guy is not like the guy who knows everything, right? And usually when you put that type of pedestal on people, Tom Lee, Cathie Wood, they end up getting some wrong calls and you get mad at them, right? But no one's perfect. It's just this guy, when it comes to the AI infrastructure trade, has been as right as you can possibly be. And so his validation of Nebius, I think, is very encouraging to the street. Doesn't mean it has to work out. Doesn't mean IREN has to work out or any of the other smaller plays, but the fact is, if we're compute constrained and he believes that, Keel, he has 38 million shares of Keel, right? This is a small company, $5, $3 billion market cap. Maybe this one never gets a big deal, but if it does, he'll be well prepared for it. And as a result of that, he's going to get a lot more momentum. So CleanSpark as well. Yeah, basically he's bought pretty much every Bitcoin miner turned AI HPC play because I think his thesis is we are so compute constrained. All of these guys, even if the quality of their revenue, even if they're heavily levered on debt, even if they're diluting, there is so much freaking demand that they will get more and more deals. And even if the business model is not fundamentally sound at the moment, eventually they will turn a profit because they're just going to be getting so many deals, and the market caps they're trading at, inevitably they're going to get re-rated. And I think that's kind of the core reason for why he's getting this much excitement. Yes, it's 5.6% of the company. That's correct. 5.6% of Nebius, not his fund. That's what I meant to say. So 12 million shares of Nebius, 5.6% of the company itself, which is why he was forced to disclose this position, which is a lot, dude. 5% of a $52 billion company. Like, he's not, it's not a small amount of money that he's taking a bet on, which means he thinks it's probably going up. And if that's the case, then, Nebius has been one that buying into strength has worked, even though people have been afraid to buy into strength because a lot of people have just been like, how high can it keep going? And just like Rocket Lab, some of these names, this is their year to be bought into strength. And as of now, it is working. Rocket Lab down about 1.4% of the pre-market. ASTS hit 131 yesterday. That's at 125. That's down about 3.2% in the pre-market. Yes, thank you, Nate. It's 15% of his AUM. That's correct. So 5.6% of the company and then 15% of his AUM. By the way, Nate said that Artemis Research, I might be saying them wrong, Arty Research, would do a $400 price target on Nebius. He was a little off. They came in at 380 today. So just $20 off, but his prediction fairly accurate right there. So another massive target on Nebius. We had Bank of America increase their price target a couple weeks ago, and now you had a $380 price target from Arty Research, and Street likes it. Street likes it, and that's why that stock is continuing to make a higher run. All right, so that's what we had in terms of Nebius, let's talk about some of the earnings that we had last night. Real quick, let's just do this Meta news. The reason Meta's up right now, last night, if you missed the news, Meta is going to be getting into the AI subscription game. I kind of think this is really desperate for Meta because I think they just want to show that there is some other stream of revenue outside of advertising, and they're putting out these AI subscriptions that people can pay $8 or $20 a month for. I don't know how well it's going to monetize, but the point is the market is finally excited that Meta is doing something outside of advertising to increase revenues. And in this case, it might be AI subscriptions. Meta, wow, we're past 640 in the pre-market. Not bad. Did not even see that. We were stuck at 630 last night. Look, Meta's been a loser for me this year. It's been a loser for a lot of people this year. I fundamentally did not understand how it fell 10% after those. Like, I was just flabbergasted that Meta actually fell and lost $300 billion in market cap after growing 33%. It made no sense to me. However, I did understand the sort of like perception of the street that all they're doing is advertising. But even if all they're doing is advertising, you know, stock still deserves to be worth north of $2 trillion. So this is Meta's attempt. I don't think they really want to do this, to be honest. I don't think they really, I think Zucks is in his boardroom thinking, how do we get the street to think of us as not just an advertising AI company, even though, you know, everyone wants to talk about ROI on CapEx, and Meta's showing you the ROI on CapEx, but it's not the type of ROI the street wants. Same thing with Microsoft because of their software products. It's not the type of ROI, which is so unbelievably stupid and ridiculous. And in 5 years, we're going to be looking back at it and be like, wow, the street really was just like, they lost their mind when it came to judging the growth aspects of some of the most important companies in the world, like Meta and Microsoft. But I think this is him trying to basically say, okay, we'll do subscriptions. Like we'll play around with all these different things that are out there to try to get the street to like realize, yeah, we're freaking Meta. We control 4 billion people's daily data. We're not going anywhere. Yeah, maybe we can throw around some subscriptions, and that's another form of revenue, and that could get the street excited. Because for the stock to go from 600 to 640 because they're introducing AI subscriptions that we don't even know how many people are going to pay for, it's hilarious to me. But nonetheless, that is the reason. On top of that, Meta said this yesterday to CNBC, and this is another reason I think the street's getting excited. Mark Zuckerberg tells shareholders that a Meta cloud computing business is, quote, definitely on the table if it overspends on data centers and has excess capacity. I don't know if Meta overspending on data centers would be bearish for the broader AI narrative because it means like there's too much CapEx that's unsustainable, or if it would end up being bullish for Meta because if we are so compute constrained and Meta doesn't need as many GPUs, they can just sell it. I mean, if Nebius and Iran and CoreWeave and Applied Digital and Keel and CleanSpark are getting all these deals, you're telling me Meta can't set up a neocloud overnight? If SpaceX can set up a neocloud with Anthropic, Meta should be able to do that. And that, I think, would re-rate the stock immediately, because then it would potentially get a Nebius, CoreWeave, Iran type of narrative associated with it. Was quite frankly, those smaller companies that have fundamentals that are just horrible compared to Meta, but their narrative is so much better. If that narrative starts to bleed into how the street thinks about Meta, you're telling me this is not a $750 stock, which is where it was back in January, especially if they're seen as like an AI infrastructure play. So I think that, along with the subscriptions, is what's getting the street excited for Meta, and that's why that stock is bumping up 642. It is still really cheap at 670 before earnings. It was really cheap for the earnings that they're putting up. So I wonder if this gets faded today into the market open, or if the street starts to kind of re-rate the narrative. But you know, this is the Mag 7 that I think should not be trading the way that it's trading this year, and hopefully we end up getting a recovery going into the end of the year. Amid, how fast can you talk? Honestly, it's a challenge every day to talk faster and faster. I'm happy people have stopped complaining, but I feel like 3 years ago people were complaining and then they just got used to it, and now I never get complaints. There was really a time where every other YouTube comment would be like, dude, slow down. And now people are just like, you know what? That's just how he talks. It is what it is. So that is what we got. Meta, that is green. Who's going to pay for Meta subs? I am not. Now, here's how Meta can get you to pay for subs. If they start charging for international calls via WhatsApp, which, remember when people used to buy phone cards to like call people across the world? I mean, the amount of people that use Meta, if they charged $1 a month, $3 a month to make international calls, I think people would have to pay it, because like they're not going to go to a different provider. They're not going to go use some other service to try to make an international call. They're not going to go on FaceTime. Like, they're just going to pay the $3 a month. So I think there are a lot of ways they can get people to pay for this stuff, but it would be annoying, right? Because Meta doesn't like doing that. They like making everything free so that they keep people using it. But nonetheless, if it's a narrative that the street wants to hear outside of advertising, then maybe that's what they're going to have to be able to do. Okay, cool. So that's what we had on Meta. The earnings that we had yesterday. Mama says my mom hears you and thinks I have the stream on 2x. That is my goal. My goal is to make people think they're listening in 2x. That is what I wake up every morning attempting to do. Marvell, they crushed earnings. They raised the guide substantially. Stock's up 3.5% right now. They were going to do 11 billion. Now they're going to do 11.5 billion. And instead of the fiscal year for 2028, 16 billion, they are getting ready to do 16.5. So you have a massive increase on the guide. Revenue beat 28% year over year. EPS also beat by 1 penny. This stock was stuck between $80 and $90 for a year and a half before it ended up taking off. I don't know if the stock moves when the market opens simply because it's had such a big run, but if it ends up getting faded, again, it's had a massive run, and I don't think that would be too crazy. Jose will be on at 10:30. He'll talk us through a little bit more about Marvell. The most interesting thing about what Marvell said is that once again, optics and photonics, optical networks, is in high demand. It's something that they are focused on immensely to be able to improve on. Rosenblatt this morning came out and said optical supply constraints are going to be lasting through 2030. So you've got the sell side. Goldman Sachs had that big report on photonics a couple of weeks ago, basically saying that TAM is going to go from 8 billion to 90 billion over the next 5 years. And so you've got a lot of industry experts and sell side analysts, and then the companies telling you, yeah, optical networks is going to be massive. That's big for Lumentum, Coherent, AAOI, Nokia, all these companies, Corning, that are in the photonics space or the optic space. That matters. And obviously that thematic has not gone as vertical as memory. Micron right there, 924 in the pre-market, but still very important. And I think that's why the Marvell earnings was also very relevant. Snowflake was the winner last night. Stock's up 37%. So this was interesting. Let's talk about Snowflake and Salesforce. Salesforce had earnings and they beat on EPS by 22%. They beat on revenue by 2%. It was a double beat. Regular revenue EPS growth was like 10, 15% year over year, nothing too crazy. The problem is the reason they beat on EPS is because they bought back $27 billion of stock. And they went into debt to buy back $27 billion of stock. So when I was looking at their EPS beat, I was really impressed. And I was like, oh my goodness, the stock should be up. 22% beat for a company of their size is not that easy. And then I realized, wait a second, it's only because they bought back their stock. It's not because their margins got better. It's not because their AI business got better. Even their Agentforce business, which is now growing 205% year over year, it is less than 5% of total sales. I think this is the issue with Salesforce. As much as people may think it's a value play, and again, I don't think it should still be at this valuation. I do think it's undervalued, but the growth is not being seen in a monumental way from the AI part of the business. And then the earnings call, don't get me started on that. The earnings call was so bad. It was like a podcast, but it was one of the most cringe podcasts you can imagine. Before they got into Q&A, they brought 2 customers in person to the San Francisco Salesforce Tower and asked them why Salesforce is so amazing. I mean, it was worse glazing than the Trump cabinet meeting. Like, it was so cringe, so bad. Like, your results should allow your customer testimonials to talk for themselves. Maybe you have a couple slides in your deck about how customers are using your product. You don't bring a CEO from another company to just say amazing things about you. Like, not on the earnings call. Like obviously they're going to say really good things about you. So it was just so unbelievably cringe. And the worst part is it was on video, which I appreciate because it was on video. But we got to see how cringe it was on video, which made it a lot worse. And we couldn't even get through it. If you're on the market closer, at some point we were just like, this is too much. We couldn't get through it. So stock's down 1%. I don't think it deserves to be at this valuation, but nonetheless, it's still down. Snowflake is even more confusing to me. Snowflake crushed the earnings, 33% revenue growth, 60% EPS growth. Everything you could imagine from Snowflake that's good ended up happening. The reason I think the stock went up is because they signed a $6 billion deal with AWS. What does that mean? That means they're going to pay $6 billion to Amazon to integrate Snowflake even deeper into Amazon Web Services. And that's going to go into the capital expenditures for Snowflake, which is really good for AWS and theoretically should be good for Snowflake because obviously they're going to be getting more distribution through AWS in this new type of, I mean, they've always been part of AWS in terms of their vendors, but I guess this is some type of new partnership they're launching. The confusing thing about this though, for me, is the street's rewarding them by 37% for spending $6 billion of CapEx. And that to me was a little confusing because I'm like, okay, so some companies, they spend money and they get rewarded. Other companies spend money and they don't get rewarded. It's like Zscaler said, we're going to increase our CapEx commitments and their stock fell by 30%. So it is one of those things that is a bit more confusing to me, but nonetheless, that is happening. Yeah, they acquired reserve capacity on Graviton CPUs. So Amazon benefits the most from this, obviously, because of Amazon's chip sales. They're going to be going up based on the $6 billion commitment. But nonetheless, it's $6 billion. Snowflake commits $6 billion in Graviton compute and AI spend on AWS over 5 years, reflecting accelerating demand for data and AI workloads. The funny thing about this is you might be like, well, Amit, they're spending $6 billion because they're growing. They have all these AI workloads and all this demand for their data lake that they have to spend $6 billion on these new chips. So that's a good thing, because if they're spending $6 billion, that means they're growing. That means the street is rewarding growth. It's like, okay, well, why did Meta fall when they increased CapEx? They're growing too. And they're growing at a way faster pace than Snowflake, and they're growing at a way faster level, right? They're doing hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue. Or why did Zscaler fall when they increased their CapEx, but they also increased their growth estimates? So I think this was more about valuation. Snowflake was down 20% year to date before this 37% print that they got after hours. And maybe the valuation just became so cheap that any good news around AI, CapEx, securing chips, whatever it is, leading to more growth is what got the street to be excited. But it was quite fascinating that the street is punishing some companies that are spending on growth or are growing way faster than other companies and are not having to spend on growth because they don't need to, buy and reserve all this capacity on different GPUs that are out there. But it's almost like if you are spending, you're seen as like a winner because it means you're growing. But if you're growing without spending, or you're growing with spending, and the market just doesn't like your valuation or doesn't like who you are, boom, you end up going down. So yeah, a lot of things in this market don't make sense. If you have Snowflake, congrats. At the end of the day, I think this stock probably was just too cheap going into the print. Now, again, earnings are a gamble, because if you thought Zscaler was too cheap going into the print, which Zscaler was also down 30% into the print going year to date, they ended up losing 30% market cap right after the print, after saying some of the same stuff that Snowflake said. But I guess the Amazon partnership itself was a little bit more in line with what the street wanted to see in terms of software companies spending on CapEx, and that's why the street got excited. The other real big reason to wrap a bow on Snowflake is Salesforce didn't really announce any partnership or deals that made it seem like they were getting ready to accelerate growth. Like, they announced their Agentforce ARR was up a little bit. They had some customers talk about how good they were on the earnings call, but they didn't really announce like, hey, we're doing a strategic partnership with OpenAI or Amazon, and we're, securing all this massive capacity and stuff like that, which will accelerate our growth past 15%, which is basically what they've been catering at for the past couple of years. Snowflake kind of did do that. Now, I know Snowflake's a much smaller company. They do a lot less revenue than Salesforce, so it's harder for Salesforce to do that type of stuff. But in this market, if you get a deal, especially a deal with a hyperscaler that involves more CapEx and more chip capacity, your stock goes up. Snowflake is still not profitable. That is correct. I don't think they haven't been profitable since they went public, and the market doesn't necessarily care about that. But spend money on CapEx and then boom, you end up going up. And I think that's what we're seeing right now. 2025 and Q1 2026 punished for CapEx, Q2 2026 rewarded for CapEx. Yeah. I mean, it's almost like Palantir has to come out and be like, yeah, we're going to spend our $8 billion in cash on Amazon Trainium chips. And, maybe that's what's going to get the stock to, it's just Amazon or Palantir obviously has a different valuation than Snowflake, but they're growing way faster and the street doesn't care. Snowflake says they're spending $6 billion and the street cares. So it's one of those things where I guess valuation was kind of the core differentiating factor. And then the amount of CapEx they spent was the other reason why this one ended up going up. Qualcomm right there, that is up about 1%. That was down about 7% last night as well. Snowflake, again, up 36%. Micron, that's basically flat. Iren is down about 2%. And then Marvell is up 3.6%. Why is ServiceNow up? ServiceNow is up because Salesforce had a decent earnings and Snowflake had a decent earnings. Salesforce did not get the love from the earnings, but ServiceNow is. MongoDB, which has earnings today, also is up because of those Snowflake earnings. They are not exactly the same company, but given it is a database, the street's assuming that MongoDB is also going to have massive growth, and potentially MongoDB has a deal with one of these hyperscalers spending more on CapEx, and that CapEx is going to lead to the perception of more growth, and then boom, the street's kind of front running it right there. So Mongo, Snowflake, ServiceNow, the biggest winners of last night. Salesforce, one of the biggest losers, even though their earnings again wasn't the worst thing in the world. Okay, so that's what we had in terms of the earnings last night. Dell, they won a 5-year, $9.7 billion Pentagon software agreement to provide Microsoft enterprise software across the U.S. military. When Trump says buy, you just buy. He said to buy it at $260. It's now at $317. I mean, he's kind of had a 100% hit rate this entire year so far on calling out stocks and seeing them go up. The only thing he's really lost money on and lost people money on is the meme coin. But outside of that, Dell's up. On top of that, Dell was one of the first companies to commit $6 billion to the Trump accounts. And, well, you give some money, you get some money. That's kind of how this administration works. And I think as a result, you're seeing Dell get that momentum right there as that continues to go up in the pre-market, up about 4.1%. Best Buy, they had a good earnings today. Best Buy right there is green, up by 9%. Now, this stock was down year to date. Fiscal year guidance, they maintained it. Q1 adjusted EPS beat by 5 cents. Q1 revenue beat $8.94 billion versus $8.83 billion. And then fiscal year revenue growth was grown or guided up by a little bit, by about 1%. CEO said today, we are pleased to report better than expected results. Our comparable sales grew 2% versus last year, higher than our outlook, with positive comps across the majority of our major product categories and strong performance in our Best Buy ads and marketplace initiatives. That stock up 8.77%. Elf, Nike, Best Buy, again, all these stocks have not had the best year, as most of the momentum has gone into, semis, but nonetheless, the earnings are not the worst. Here's a guy who Pomp interviewed yesterday, someone who's been very early in crypto. This was his argument for why the pricing mismatch in Bitcoin is as strong as it's been in history.
And then what about Bitcoin?
My Bitcoin model has average price of Bitcoin today at 134,000. The mispricing today in Bitcoin is as large as I've ever seen before in the model. I think that's because the tech stocks have been so strong that all of the risk capital has fled into NVIDIA and the memory stocks. I mean, the performances of these stocks have really been historic. And if you look at hedge fund allocations and things like that, all of the fast money has gone into tech stocks, and it had to come out of somewhere. So I think we're seeing a great opportunity today in Bitcoin. Certainly the best opportunity I've seen in Bitcoin in a decade.
Now, replace Bitcoin with software, replace software with fintech. I think the same argument stands that the tech stocks have just taken the life out of every other sector of the market. And in particular, the semiconductor stocks, not even the tech stocks. And, if you've been long them, then you've won. If you've not, then obviously some of these other sectors have underperformed, like Bitcoin. But maybe that's the opportunity. Bitcoin's about to go below 73 again, fourth time in the past 12 hours. Let's see if we drop below 73. But, maybe that's the case. Now, even if that is the case, the question becomes, does that mean this is the time to buy Bitcoin? And obviously, that's a very subjective question, and people have to make their own decisions around it. If you are a believer of the cycle, by September, November-ish, you should probably start to see this get out of that cycle. If you're a believer that Kevin Warsh is a fan of Bitcoin and ultimately thinks that we're going to be able to cut rates, Bitcoin should probably be in a better situation. But as of now, the fundamental narrative around it, especially because we don't even have the Clarity Act, really into law yet, has not been the best, which means all the crypto assets are theoretically mispriced if you think Bitcoin should be worth $143,000 today. And if that's the case, they're on sale. But, that's a decision that people have to make, or if they want to continue getting allocation into the tech stocks. NVIDIA, Jensen, people are not going to believe this, but this was reported yesterday by the Financial Times. Jensen is going to be joining the board at a prestigious Beijing university. The chipmaker's boss move to join Tim Cook chaired board underlines the push to maintain ties with China. So he is going to be joining the board of directors of kind of the Harvard of Beijing. And I don't think he really cares about being on the board of directors of this university. I think he really wants to sell some chips into China. And so, Jensen's doing the best that he can to keep this momentum growing and keep this growth going. But, as of now, time will tell to see if he ends up making that happen. But that is what NVIDIA is trying to do. Again, the drop in NVIDIA, I've been getting so many messages about it, has been quite incredible. Once again, it's just a really big company. And because it's a really big company, it's really hard for, obviously, NVIDIA to do as well as some of these other smaller companies. But trades at 17 times forward earnings. If the stock continues to be flat and the earnings continue to go up, then you're probably going to see more and more momentum. But as of now, that is the reality for NVIDIA at this moment. By the way, initial jobless claims came in at 250,000 versus 211,000. If you're just joining, GDP came in at 1.6 versus 2%, and then PCE came in at 3.8% versus 3.8 expected. So macro data wasn't that big of a deal. Rosenblatt, they initiated a new price target on Meta at 1,015. And Cantor Fitzgerald maintained their buy on IREN, but they raised their price target from 61 to 99. So you got a couple price targets this morning that have been increased. Also, SanDisk has been getting a couple of $2,000 price targets across the board. And that stock is getting upgraded the same way Micron is. Speaking of price targets, JP Morgan is starting to think software comes back. They resumed coverage on older software and AI cloud names. Microsoft, Snowflake, Datadog, Oracle, Twilio, Workday, Intuit, etc. They still have 605 on Intuit, which is a double from here. Still have 550 on Microsoft, 245 on Snowflake. I think they've seen some of the software earnings, and they're basically like, okay, like these stocks probably aren't dead, and maybe it is the time to get a bit more exposure to software. And so it seems like they're coming back, and they're a bit more excited for that. Let's see if Meta can open strong, dude. Let's see. Yeah, they don't have Palantir on that list, but Palantir's average price target by the street is still $185. Meta right there, 636. It was at 643. What do people think? Do you think we break through 640 today? The problem with the narrative from yesterday, the announcement from yesterday, is that subscriptions to me is not something that is really going to make a dent in their overall revenue growth. But narrative-wise, it's something the streets that's going to care about. The compute or the NeoCloud narrative really would, I think, be a multi-billion-dollar business for Meta overnight. And maybe subscriptions would as well, but I don't know if the street's going to like it as much as the NeoCloud stuff. So I think maybe the stuff that Zuck said about the NeoCloud is a little bit more of what's moving the stock right here over the subscription stuff. But today we're going to see if the street actually believes in it, or if this one ends up going down. Marvell, I don't think it should be so surprising if Marvell goes red. The stock is up 100% in the past month. So, do I think it should go up after those earnings? Yes. Do I think their guidance was amazing? Yes. But it also, did have a massive move going into the print. So wouldn't be that crazy to see it end up slightly going down. All right. We got 1 minute. One minute before we open up this stock market on May 28th. We have a couple of days left in May. It is almost June as Microsoft goes red, because why not? But it's kind of crazy, guys. Couple days left. Someone says ring it. The other person says F that bell. I need the no mute gang to be loud and clear. You got to start off your morning with waking up. This is the coffee that you actually need. We get to be alive on planet Earth. We're all alive on planet Earth in the greatest technological revolution in history. We all get to be here all at once because some dude in 2005 came up with a website called YouTube. We all get to be here together, and you want to mute the bell? Are you kidding me? Thursday, May 28th, 9:30 a.m. The stock market is now open. All right, wake your asses up. Let's get into it. Meta breaks through 640. 641. Let's see if we can get 645. Volume already 1.35 million shares, but 640. It has been a month since we've seen even close to 640. So the narrative from last night, at least getting the street to be a lot more excited. ServiceNow, that's up 4%. Snowflake, that's up 32%. MongoDB, that's up 1%. Dell, that is up 4%. Palantir, getting a nice little candle, maybe from Snowflake and Salesforce earnings in general, proving that SaaS is not dead. 135.44, that's up 2.23%. Micron, 941. This thing fell to 880 yesterday. I think everyone's just waiting for it to get to 1,000. So let's see if that is on the table today. Rocket Lab, that's down 2%. ASTS is down 3%. IREN is down 2%. Nabesis with the Leopold 5.6% stake, that is up 8.41% on the day. Red Cat, that's up 13. Unusual Machines, wow, 37% for UMAC. Again, Trump is likely going to be funding the drone companies. That was in the Wall Street Journal article last night. And that's why all the drone stocks are going nuclear right now. Red Cat, that's up 13. Arrow, that's up 20. Arrow Environment, that's up 9. Kratos, which has been kind of dead all year, that's up 7. And Ondas, that's back above 11. That's up 4.7%. S&P basically flat. The airlines are red because of some reports that immigrants are not going to be able to go through Newark Airport, which I don't fully understand, but that was the reporting in the morning. That's why the airlines are red. Tesla goes red. HPQ also had good earnings. That stock basically red. Snowflake is up 33%. Where is Shopify? 108. That's up 1.5%. The quantum names, are we green? Quantum is flattish. IONQ is red. D-Wave's up a little bit. Rigetti, that is up a little bit. Reddit, are we green? We had an 8% day yesterday. Reddit is down about 1%, 153 right now. Microsoft officially goes red. Nope, Microsoft flipped green, 416.72. So that flipped green from the pre-market. Meta officially goes red. 642 rejected immediately at 634, 2 minutes into the market open. We'll see if that one recovers. NVIDIA, 213. NVIDIA, 213. That is green. AMD, 505. Back to the 500s. CPU demand not slowing down. Bank of America thinks it's going to be a $230 billion TAM going into 2030. AMD, Intel, ARM, those are your core CPU providers. So is NVIDIA, but the market doesn't really care about that. NVIDIA right there, 212, but AMD back above 500. Amazon goes red, even with that Snowflake deal. I mean, that's $6 billion going to Amazon. It's guaranteed revenue for Amazon. So that also is good for Marvell, because Marvell is one of the suppliers for Amazon's Trainium chips. So Marvell getting a little bit of a boost right there, but Amazon not getting too much. IGV, that's flat. Rumble yesterday said they're going to compete with the hyperscalers to be the best AI compute provider. I don't know what their plan is to do that, but that was an announcement they made yesterday. Stock was up 10%. Now it's flat right here. Zeta, that's down 1/3%. Nokia, that's down 1.14. Mercado Libre, that's up half. Redwire is up a little bit. P-Lab, this one got hit pretty bad on their earnings. And the reason for it was not demand, it was supply. It looks like memory prices and OEM capacity ended up being an issue on their supply chain. So that stock down about 30% in the pre-market, or as the market opens, it was down in the pre-market. A-Lab, that's up 5%. Your networking play is not doing too bad. Arista, that's basically flat. NVIDIA, 213. Marvell, 200. Microsoft, 415. Where is the Googs? The Googs is flat. It's been flat for the past couple of weeks now. Robinhood should be down because of BTC going down. Same thing with BMNR, Coinbase, BTC. Are we below 73? We are below 73, folks. 72.89. If we lose 72.64, then we are officially hitting a weekly low on Bitcoin. Rocket Lab, is that up? Rocket Lab is starting to go back up. So the space names have been dumping every morning, and then they recover within a couple of minutes. And you're seeing that right now on Mr. Rocket Lab, seeing that as well with Redwire. Look at that, 4% as that's getting a move. AMD trying to hold on to 500. Microsoft at 415. Reddit, that's basically flat. Nebius, 225. Nebius was almost below 200 a couple days ago, so that one has had a major rebound. S&P 500 also still red. Bloom Energy, that is green, 301. T1 Energy, that is red by about 1%. Fuel Cell, that is up by about 1%. So the themes in demand right now obviously are semis, space, and as of today, drones. I mean, if Trump is serious about really funding these drone companies, and why wouldn't he be, right? Like, we're gonna buy stuff from them anyway. Like, we're gonna be giving so many contracts to Ondas and Kratos and AeroVironment, and we've already given them billions of dollars of contracts over the past 4 years. You would imagine that we might as well take a stake in these companies if we're going to be the reason they're getting funded. I mean, most of these customers for these companies are the U.S. government, because they don't really have commercial drone applications. They're doing this for defense. So I actually think it makes a lot of sense. I don't think the drone trade, the drone trade is crazy. I think pick your favorite drone stock and you kind of ride it out and wait for the announcement from Trump. But I don't think it. I don't think it's even a FOMO trade either. Like, it logically makes sense to me. The question is, will the valuations be supported even if Trump invests in them? And time will tell how the market thinks of that. Snowflake right there up 32%. Shopify at 107. IONQ flips green, and then D-Wave, that one also flips green. Ondas 14%. Ondas, there you go, $12. When's the last time this thing was 12? It's been a while, right? It touched it on May 15th, but last time it really held on to it, we're talking about February-ish. March 2nd, and then it fell after the war started. So it's been a few months since we've really held 12 on Ondas, and there might be a real structural reason for why that's happening. Lunar, is that going green? Lunar is going green, 44. This one fell after they lost a contract that they were not really even supposed to get. So stock's having a major recovery from that after hours 14% fall a couple days ago. Redwire, that's up 3.84%. Shopify, 107.50. Micron, are we still going? We are flat. Iren, also flat, but at least Iren is in the 60s. Enphase, is that up? Enphase is red as well. Andre, what's the drone ETF? I'm forgetting the ticker symbol, but there's a few of them. DRNZ. Yeah, that's up 9%. There's a few of them. DRNZ, UAV, I think is another one. Yeah, that's another one. So I guess exposure to drones in general, if you don't want to pick one through the ETF, is probably something that could catch a bid. The question is, how big can that thematic become? Like, logically it makes sense, but Intel, we're talking about chips for national security and building global foundries. For drones, like, yes, there will be more purchase orders, but will it be to the level and the extent of what we're seeing in chips? And probably not. So, maybe the pump is not as aggressive as Intel 5Xing, but there still should be a decent pump that's built into that when they make that announcement. Shopify right there, 108, as that continues to be green. Red Cat is up about 22% on the day. Now, having said that, I don't know if today is the day where you want to get the drone allocation, because obviously the stocks are up today. So if you buy today, you definitely might have to DCA if randomly, for whatever reason, the drone stocks go down. And if Trump waits, 5 months to make an announcement that they're investing in the drone companies, it could be 5 days, it could be 5 months. That's kind of the risk you're taking with buying these names right now. Lunar 44, Micron goes red. Micron officially goes red. There's a Neocloud ETF coming out under NCLD. I wonder how much AUM that's going to be. We saw DRAM get to like 10 billion of AUM in 40 days. DRAM right there basically flat. I wonder if there's that much demand for a Neocloud ETF. Because maybe there is. Rocket Lab 150. 150. Is Meta still stuck? Meta goes red. 631. Again, the subscriptions headline is not a good headline. Like, even when I saw it, I was like, okay, I get the pump, but it feels kind of desperate. The Neocloud headline, Meta Compute, is the headline that gets the stock to pump 20% immediately. But I don't know how quick Zucks is going to be to commit to that, because then they have to actually build a physical hardware compute business that rents out GPUs, and that's just a lot of work that they're going to have to commit to if they decide to do that. T1 Energy, that flips green as well, as that continues to go green. Yes, Rocket Lab has $215 covered calls now. So the option buyers continue to be aggressive on the option chain, and they're buying up different calls. The call flow on the space names, again, going into the SpaceX IPO, has been pretty incredible. Momentous, that's down 6%. It was up 100% a couple days ago. AppLovin, that's flat. That was up 10% yesterday. And Raytheon, that is up 1%. Axon, this one has been dead all year. Axon, that's up 2%. Based on Snowflake, I guess. Snowflake cooling off a little bit. It was up 40, now it's up 32. But the fact that it's holding on to a 30% move on what was $70 billion company is pretty freaking incredible. 232 right there. As you've seen multiple price targets increasing today. Yes, there was a lot of ASTS 190 calls yesterday. That's correct. I think it was like a couple million of premium into the ASTS 190 call. Latest company to lay off 20% of their workforce. This one's actually not that surprising, to be honest. I know a lot of retail likes this stock, but I've always been a little confused about their moat. Wix is laying off 20% of their sales force, or of their workforce, I should say. Look, I think Wix is undervalued, 100%. If you look at the revenues, their free cash flow, their market cap, the cash they have on hand, their debt, it's under. But fundamentally, isn't this the type of company that should be destroyed by Claude? Like, like maybe ServiceNow doesn't get killed because of, but shouldn't Wix, a website builder? I know Base 44 is growing. I understand they have all, but shouldn't this be the thing that ends up being commoditized dramatically? And then you can point to the growth and say, well, it's not being commoditized. It's like, well, that's fair, but Upwork had some good quarters. Fiverr had some good quarters. At the end of the day, there's not that many people that are using digital nomads in the Philippines to make their logos anymore, because Grok can do it for you in 2 seconds. So I never got the thesis on this one. I really didn't. I got the valuation concerns, or the lack of concerns around valuation, but looks like they are laying off about 20% of their workforce. Stock still flat on the day, down about 1%. Rocket Lab now flips red from 150. You can use Claude on Base 44. That's fair. I'm sure there's probably integrations with large language models here, and maybe that's why it should still survive. I don't know. I think I need to do more due diligence to understand it, because on first notice, it's just like, okay, it's a website builder, it's an application builder, but the foundation models are really good at doing that. So maybe Wix is a wrapper that is a way better user experience, and that is the moat, theoretically. But obviously the street does not think about that. Yeah, CoreWeave 104.63. Dollar Tree, did they have earnings today? I think they did. Dollar Tree's up 15%. That's actually, hold on, that's really bullish. Dollar Tree is one of those places where if consumers are continuing to spend, like in 2024, the issue with Dollar Tree and why we were having some issues with the economy is because even the lowest income consumers weren't spending at places like Dollar Tree, which is bad because it's like if you can't afford stuff at Dollar Tree, then there's an issue with the labor market. CEO just said, our first quarter results reflected continued progress across the business and demonstrate the strength of Dollar Tree's position as the preferred destination for value, convenience, and discovery. Net sales up 7.2%. EPS is up 38%. Wow. They bought back $100 million of shares. Operating income is up 1.2% quarter over quarter. It's a decent print. Dollar Tree right there up 16%. Now, again, I know people might say, well, that's bearish because it's Dollar Tree, but if they have sales that are surging, then you might have people that can't afford everything and they're going to places that are discount stores. But in 2023, 2024, the concern was that people weren't even shopping at Dollar Tree, right? And if you're not buying stuff at Dollar Tree, there's some serious issues in the economy. And so I actually think that could flip to be bullish. It was down about 40 or 20% year to date before this pump. Now it's only down 12% year to date. Over the past 1 year, it is up 25%. For Dollar Tree. Snowflake, 31%. Dollar Tree up 16.3%. But who knows? I mean, maybe it could be a negative. I'm trying to interpret it more as a positive because, you could say the consumer is weak, but if the consumer was weak enough to not shop at Dollar Tree, like if Dollar Tree had declining sales, that would be a way worse story than if they're not having any growth at all. And it looks like they're at least seeing some growth. Wow, Ondas, 16%. People are absolutely buying into this Trump narrative around drones. It's positively negative, exactly. I guess you could have a bear case or a bull case, but it would be positively negative. IONQ, that is up now. The Qs in general is 727. Oh, here's another thing on Dollar Tree. They partnered with DoorDash. That might be another reason that the stock is moving right here on top of the sales growth. So you can now DoorDash from Dollar Tree. I don't use DoorDash, to be honest. If I order stuff, it's usually Uber Eats. I don't think I use DoorDash. I think I've used it a couple times, but you got to either kind of pick which one you go with. But them expanding their footprint is definitely decent. Across 9,000 stores is the announcement. Customers can shop over 10,000 products. So it's definitely a good thing for DoorDash. DoorDash right there is up. It is flat right now. And so that's still slightly flat. We have DoorDash robots in Scottsdale, Arizona. Yeah, Uber Eats has those. I have a bunch of those Nebius-owned AV rides across the city. And so I see them all the time. They're so respectful. If they see you walking, they'll stop. It's like they're so nice, to be honest. But you do have a lot more autonomous delivery. Interesting. Grok is raising up to $650 million from existing investors after the AI chip maker previously signed a $20 billion licensing deal with NVIDIA. So I guess the remaining team at Grok is raising $650 million, even though they already signed a $20 billion. That's a weird one. I thought NVIDIA basically owned them, even though it was structured as a license, because if they actually acquired them, obviously it would have been antitrust. That's interesting. I wonder why they're raising that much money right there. Snowflake, 232, as that's up 32%. Why is Coursera up? Did anyone know? Did they have earnings yesterday? This thing exploded last night. Coursera Gaming up 27%, market cap at $1.34 billion. And I'm not sure exactly what happened with them last night, but I imagine it was the memory. Oh, I forgot the memory trade. You guys told me about this a year ago, that they're a memory player. Coursera is a downstream beneficiary of the DRAM shortage, not a pure play on it. They benefit from elevated pricing power and pre-bought inventory gains, but they also face margin pressure if upstream DRAM costs stay elevated while consumer demand softens. Yeah, I forgot this was a legit thesis back then. This thing pumped last year, then it ended up dumping pretty hard. Yeah, Yeah, year to date, it's basically been flat until recently. Yeah, February got up to 14, then fell all the way down to 6, then fell all the way to 4, and now it's back at 12. So this is your play on memory, I guess, which is getting it to get a little bit more love. Microsoft, are we getting some love? Microsoft 420. Okay. Microsoft getting back into action. Meta trying to get a rebound back at 635. But Microsoft is continuing to potentially get that boost from Anthropic buying their chips. And maybe that would be strong enough to get the street to re-rate the narrative. Again, if Meta starts selling compute and Microsoft starts really selling chips, maybe that's it. Maybe that's your thesis. Oracle right there, 196.91. 196.91. Zeta as well, getting a little bit of love right there. That's up 1.44%. ServiceNow, it's so funny that's, ServiceNow is getting a pump today outside of Salesforce, but the Snowflake Salesforce earnings were bullish for everything in software besides those companies. Salesforce now flipping a little green, 179.18. But still red. Do we have any other macro data today? So we had PCE. We had mortgage rates yesterday. We had GDP came in at 1.6% versus 2%. So GDP wasn't the best, but at least it's still up. New home sales we're going to be getting in about 12 minutes. Street's expecting 670,000 for new home sales. Lennar, Opendoor, all those names, again, have kind of been dead all year based on the housing market kind of being hit. ARM continues to go higher, 321, 6.2%. Again, it's a core narrative of this market this year, but once again, it really forces you every week to ask yourself, what type of investor are you? If you are stuck in a name that's not doing anything, once again, SoFi, and then you see ARM going up 5% every other day, like you just can't complain when ARM goes up if you're not willing to take the risk of buying it at 320. Because look, ARM was risky at 200 when it doubled from 100 to 200, and then went from 100 to 250. People were like, I can't touch it. Now it's 250 to 319. At some point, you have to jump in if you want to stop complaining about the name that's not moving. But every time there's an opportunity to jump in, I mean, it's hard to jump in, right? Because it's scary after a name has gone up that much. And it once again goes back to managing emotions. Like if you're annoyed that the stock you're in is not moving, that's fine. But then do you have the stomach to buy the stock that is moving? Like if Micron falls to 800 tomorrow, who's buying that? It's undervalued. They have long-term agreements. That their forward PE is disgustingly cheap compared to every other semiconductor name, but who's buying it? I mean, if theoretically the whole reason this thing is up is because UBS raised the price target to 1,600, well, at 900, that's a deal. That's almost a double. And it's down. It was at 985 2 days ago. Now it's at 907. I mean, theoretically, 7% dip. But if you don't have the stomach to buy this at 900, then you kind of can't complain about the name that's not moving, right? Because you could easily get into a name that starts moving. I can guarantee you Micron or ARM is going to give you a move. It's not going to move 4 or 5 cents every day like SoFi. But you might end up throwing up with how the moves go up and down if you're not ready to handle it. ServiceNow 107 as that continues to go up 5%. Hood announced the Trump accounts. Yeah, every company today is getting their Trump accounts in. Again, I think it's bullish long-term for Hood. I do not think it's going to change the stock re-rating overnight because $1,000 to even 1 million kids, which I don't think Hood's going to have 1 million accounts overnight. Like that's good, but it has to compound over the next 18 years. So long-term, it's a really good part of the thesis, but it's not something that's going to change the narrative tomorrow. What's going to change the narrative tomorrow on Hood is, unfortunately, BTC. And that right now is the bigger issue. Although the agent stuff they released last night got a lot of the sell side pretty excited about it. And I saw multiple, not upgrades today, but just notes from the sell side analysts saying we really like what they're doing with agents. But, as of now, that's not necessarily re-rating the stock. SPY, are we at 750? We are at 749.80. Ondas continuing. Wow. Hit 13 today. 20% on Mr. Ondas. 11th of 13 right there. Stock was at $9 a couple days ago. Figma, by the way, based on Snowflake's earnings crushing it, I would imagine Figma, which also crushed earnings and is up a little bit from earnings, but not that much. I would imagine their earnings are going to be pretty strong as well in the next few months. And, some of these software names that are now starting to get love from the market on good earnings, given 2 months ago, if you had good earnings, you would just get no love. ServiceNow fell to 80 on earnings. Now it's at 107. That's a 20% move. So since then, at least there is some level of excitement coming back into SaaS. Microsoft, she's going for it. That's a nice move on Microsoft today. 423. Is Google red? Google is red. Maybe a little bit. Tesla's red as well. Maybe a little bit of inflows into the Mag 7s, particularly on the most beaten up names like Microsoft and Meta. Meta also flipped green. Apple's still at all-time highs at 311. Is Ford still up? Ford is up $16. I think that's a 52-week high for Ford at 1620. And that continues to be green. Nebius 225. That's up 8.3. Why are you comparing Snowflake and Figma? It's not to compare the companies. It's just 2 months ago, every software company got dumped on any positive headline. The fact that Snowflake is up 30% and it's a software company means that the market is at least somewhat coming to the conclusion that we shouldn't just write off a software company because it sells software, which is what we saw in Figma's earnings last month as well. So maybe if these companies continue to put up great earnings, just like the semiconductor companies are putting up great earnings, they're not written off just because they're software names. IONQ flipping, that's up 2.3%. Rubrik, this is another SaaS name. It's been dead all year. Look at that, almost touching 70. This thing went from 85 to 40. Coming back here now, potentially to 70. Apple to renew push for AI that runs on devices instead of the cloud. Got a report right here from The Information. Apple will continue touting on-device processing as a priority for its next wave of AI features. It says Apple is using a version of Google's LLMs to train a smaller version of the model that can run locally on Apple devices, a process known as distillation. However, many AI queries are expected to still need cloud support. That's because the full Gemini model provided by Google has trillions of parameters and requires so much computing horsepower that Apple has struggled to get it to work on its own internal server infrastructure called private cloud compute. Edge AI. It's going to be a big theme. That's part of the thesis for Nokia. That's been part of the thesis for OSS. These themes are incredibly important, and definitely when it comes to defense applications. So it looks like Apple is trying to get some momentum there in that theme. Zeta, are we crossing 20? We have crossed 20. We hit 2050 on Tuesday, and then we dumped. Let's see if we can actually hold on to 20 right here. But there you go. We did interview the CEO of Zeta on Basis Points last night. A lot of people seem to enjoy the interview, so that one is out on the channel. You can check it out. It gave me a greater appreciation for their moat, because I'm a fan of the company, but even I, if you ask me what exactly is their moat, I would struggle to exactly explain why I think they're differentiated. And after watching that, it's kind of obvious how differentiated they are. And then you look at the multiple, the valuation, you're like, okay, this is one of those things where the street probably should catch on eventually. The average price target on the street is at $34, but it does sell software, and software has been out of favor. I ran right there. That is down 4%. Circle and MicroStrategy also getting hit. It's nice to see Hood flipping green and the other Bitcoin names flipping red. Got Circle right there, still down 3. And MicroStrategy still getting hit as well. Axon as well, flipping green. Yes, Skyworks is another one that is a Apple supplier client-side edge. Jason was talking about this one on Tuesday as well. So the edge AI theme, the robotics theme, and the drone theme, theoretically, if we start to see more of these types of headlines, could be important themes over the next 6 months. Drones because of Trump, edge AI based on companies like Apple trying to distill LLMs on the device locally. And then obviously more and more momentum on how this AI trade starts to get more broadly proliferated. Figma right there up 5.9. Keel's down. CleanSpark's down. ASTS is down. Nutanix, they had good earnings. They're up 2.3%. HIMS passing 25. Is Palantir green? Palantir is green. 137. 3.4%. Shopify as well. 109 coming alive. Shopify fell to 94 last week. So you're starting to see this one get a bit of a rebound. Reddit as well fell to 142 on Sunday. Reddit at 155. A lot of software names starting to get a move. IGV's up 2, ServiceNow up 6. Can they hold on today? Can they hold on? The semis are red, but not that red. SMH is down 1%. If SMH flips, I wonder if software goes red. Meta, 637, trying to get back to 640. Oil and gas names are all slightly up as well, given oil was up. VG is up about 2.5% as well. Okay, home sales. We're going to get that in a couple minutes. We'll take a look at what we see there. IBM, that's also making a move. Again, IBM, theoretically, SaaS company. They fell really badly on their earnings. Then they got the $1 billion from Trump on quantum. So that starts to get the street a bit more excited. Aura Ring is going public, by the way. Aura Ring is going public. I don't know when. I think it should be in the next month, but Aura Ring is going public. Put in the chat if you have an Aura Ring or you wear one every day. Let me see if I can get the valuation. Aura Ring valuation. $11 billion. Okay, I don't know if it's actually worth $11 billion. I haven't looked at any of the numbers, but I don't know. Yeah, this is an IPO season. You're getting a lot more companies go public. Hopefully, they have the fundamentals to justify going public, but that one should be going public soon. Yeah, Aura Ring 5 just launched recently. Yeah, Robinhood Ventures Fund actually owns it. How's that doing? RVI 4927. Basically flat. Tanner's probably an insider. That is correct. Tanner is probably an insider. Yeah, I always thought they would get acquired. I thought like Apple would buy them or one of these health fit, even Google. They bought Fitbit, but Microsoft 424. I didn't think they would actually go public. The heat map today, we are relatively green in tech and software. Everything else basically kind of flat. Is there any hood news? No. Outside of the Trump accounts launching today and the agent stuff that launched yesterday, nothing else from that. Snowflake CEO, he's live. Let's go to him real quick, and then we'll get this housing data.
That you use are now visible to the work agent, which means that you can get much better insight. You can also take actions directly from Snowflake Intelligence. We will continue to be very active on this front. Key pieces of technology, as well as amazing teams that are going to make us so much better, like Neeva did.
All right, Sri, really appreciate you joining us. Fascinating story. Obviously, the business has accelerated tremendously, and the shares up right now 36%. Snowflake.
So again, that Amazon deal, that was the big one. Enough spending on the CapEx there. That's what got the street excited. Microsoft, she's getting a little breakout. 426. SPY just flipped green. SoFi just flipped green. Meta trying to get back to 640. ServiceNow, can she give us 110? Reddit 157 almost. Shopify, can we get 110? Shopify 110.60. Okay, starting to see some movement here in SaaS. I wonder if today can actually last today, because yesterday it pumped a little bit, and then by 12 p.m. it ended up not dumping, but it did flip red. I wouldn't say it dumped, but it flipped red. So from the highs to the lows, it ended up being a red day, but it was still up from where it was a couple days ago. Let's see if it can hold today. Let's see if it can hold. Here is your housing sales coming in right now for the month of April.
Annualized units, that is well below expectations of 663. It's down 6.2% from March, down 11% year over year. The median sale price was 8% above March, and it was 2.2% above April 2025. That is a price of $413,600. Now, this count is based on signed contracts. So it's people out shopping in April. You You remember mortgage rates shot up in March, then came down a little bit in April. And that's why I think the street was expecting a smaller drop. It was only expecting 2% drop, but now it's seeing that again, 6% drop. The builders, they were nervous. April starts were down 9% month to month and over 2% year over year for housing starts in single family. So again, it's this mortgage rate kind of back and forth of we shoot up, we come back a little. We're obviously up again in the last couple of weeks, but new home sales, to see the price that was actually up a little bit, the builders had been lowering prices to try to get people in the door. So seeing prices up is not great for the market. Again, the big builders can do incentives, other builders cannot. But again, a pretty big disappoint in new home sales for April. Back to you guys.
Okay, thank you, Diana. Diana Olick adding to a pile of.
All right, so 40,000 less homes sold than expected. Obviously, housing market is not the best, but nonetheless, until mortgage rates come down, it's probably not really going to meaningfully open up. Palantir right there, that's up 5%. Shopify's up 4%. Reddit's up 2%. Meta's up 1%. ServiceNow up 7%. Does it last, folks? That is the question. Let's do a poll right now. See what people think. Does the SaaS green last today? What do we think? What do we think? What do we think? AppLovin had a great day yesterday. Is this still going? Yeah, look at that. 586. I mean, this stock was $800 before it fell to 380. So a lot of these names were on sale. A lot of them. Reddit, 140s on sale. Shopify, hundreds on sale. Palantir, low 130s. At one point got below 130, but realistically been flirting with the 130s for the past 2 weeks. Past 2 months now on sale. ServiceNow, obviously on sale. Not every software name has been treated equally. Salesforce hasn't really been, the big winner, although that's up 2% right there. But that might be more Salesforce specific. A lot. Zeta fell to the 17s. You had a lot of these names maybe start to get a bit of a rebound here. CoreWeave's up a little bit. UPS is up a little bit. Amazon's down. Interesting. Even with that Snowflake deal, Amazon's down. The semis aren't down that much though today. Like Micron's down 2%. So if this flips, I'm curious to see if the momentum in SaaS can end up holding. But again, if the semis do fall, everything's going to fall. SanDisk, Nokia, Corning, Micron, NVIDIA, AMD, all of them. I really don't think it's just going to be Micron or just going to be NVIDIA. I really think all of them. AMD lost 500, 494 are going to get a correction if there is a correction. And then the question is going to be, will the market rotate or will the market just sell off everything with it because, everything's intertwined with the semis to some extent? If we actually see a flip, dude, if we actually see SMH down 10% and IGV up 10%, it is going to be the craziest thing ever because for the past 4 months, this market has been, if you're in semis, you're winning. If you're not in semis, you might be winning here and there, but you're not really winning. If we legitimately flip that to semis are the losers if you bought at these levels, and SaaS ends up being the winners if you bought at their depressed valuations, it would be poetic, but I also wonder how much resilience this market has to let that happen, given how much momentum there is around the semis. But we're going to have to see. Meta right there, back up to 640. Back up to 640. Is Rocket Lab down? Rocket Lab is indeed down. Rocket Lab's almost trading with the semis now. It's like they're both kind of in the same bucket of high beta. And the funny thing about this, it doesn't take that much to get the street to flip. You get a couple bad days, some junior fund manager who just started their fund 2 years ago and has 100 million AUM and thought he was, smart shit buying all these semi stocks after they've 10,000x'd. He's going to get scared pretty quick because he's going to lose all of his AUM if he ended up buying the top, and he will sell quickly. And that will cause a panic in retail. That will cause margin calls. That will lead to a lot of panic in this sector. If it happens, again, there's a big if, but it doesn't take a lot for that to happen. I think it takes a couple of days of really bad red, which, today is nothing. Micron's down 1%. It's not that big of a deal. But if Micron were to go down 5% a couple of days in a row, if NVIDIA were to hit 2-3% down a couple of days in a row, that's where I think people will be like, oh shit, I bought the top. Even if it's not really the top, right? Maybe it's a short-term top. And then the question is, does a rotation happen? ARM right there, still 321. That's green on the day. SoFi, that's up 1%. Bitcoin just completely getting wrecked as that one goes down. It's called a pullback. Well, I'm not talking about a pullback. I'm talking about real panic. A pullback, we've had pullbacks, right? Like Micron was at 650 a week ago, right? That was a pullback. I'm talking about like real sustained panic where people kind of lose faith in the narrative, which again, I don't think that should happen because why would it happen? The CapEx is there, the momentum's there, the strength is there, NVIDIA earnings crushed it, AMD crushed, like there's not a reason for that to happen. But nonetheless, I guess you could point to the euphoria in the vertical nature of how parabolic these stocks have gone. And at some point they take a breather. If that were to happen, then it becomes a question of do we end up getting rotation? Oracle right there, 194. As that's green as well. Palantir trying to go for 139, got rejected at 139.50. What happens if the South Koreans panic? You know, honestly, that is the one thing that like kind of does scare me a lot. I've been watching a lot more South Korean media. And like if you go on YouTube, you can like find these South Korean news channels. And the way they're reporting about it, dude, it's like everyone and their mother is comparing themselves on being up triple digits year to date. And it's like, if you're not up at least 150, 200%, you're a loser and you didn't take enough risk. And South Korea already has such a big gambling culture. Robinhood right there, 78.27, going against Bitcoin, baby. Not trading with Bitcoin today. And it's just one of those things where it's like, okay, there is so much leverage in the system. Now, granted, SK Hynix and Samsung will continue to produce really good earnings, but this is what happens if the market doesn't want to pay up for it. SPY flips green at 750. SoFi still up at 1630. Amit, I need you to wow on the Microsoft chart. Well, wow. 425, baby. Up 3% of the day. There's no headline on Microsoft either. Oh, there is. Hold on. Just got it. Microsoft to release new coding model next week in the comeback attempt. Models that specialize in tasks as per the information. Microsoft to release new coding model that specializes in tasks. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I don't know if people are going to give up Claude Code and Codex and Cursor to use Microsoft. It better be a damn good model to get people to switch. I don't even think that should be the bull headline. The bull headline should be they're selling chips to Anthropic. That's like, I think the reason the street's re-rating it here. The Pentagon deal, I mean, look, it's good, 9.7 billion, but it's not that. I mean, Microsoft gets a lot of those deals from the government, so I don't know if that was enough to move it. Maybe that's moving it here. But it seems like this coding model might be your actual headline today. And if they incorporate it into Copilot, again, they're probably trying to drive Copilot adoption by having a better model. Hey, look, if the model can actually do shit that Claude and Codex can't. How many people here use Claude Code and Codex daily? Put in the chat. How many people here legit use Claude and Codex every single day? And it's like a meaningful part of your workflow. Because, you know, that is the epicenter of where I think a lot of the enterprise use case productivity is coming from when it comes to AI. Snowflake right there, 35.8%. Wow, a lot of you. I use it till they restrict me on tokens. Loris is Claude most days. I use it daily, Claude Cursor. Damn, dude. See, we're all using this AI shit every day. Uzi says I rip a few G's worth of inference every month. Goodness. I mean, so that's it. Like if Microsoft is able to tap into that part of the enterprise use case, coding stack use case, which is, you know, really what's been taking off Anthropic's business in the enterprise, that is a headline theoretically that should pump them. But the question is how many people realistically are going to use this model. I guess we will find out soon. Serve Robotics, that's up 2.83% on the day as well. Celestica is more irrational than my ex-wife. You know, I actually have a friend. I have a friend who ended up getting a divorce. This was back in like the summer of 2025, and he's had a really good year in the market. And so like now he's rich, and we were talking last night, and he was like, "Yeah, she should have stayed with me, dude. She wouldn't have to work anymore." But she didn't. So this market has made millionaires. This market has made people rich, but not everyone has been able to benefit from it. AppLovin right there, almost 590. Almost 590, 4%. 4%. Let's see if this one can pass 600. BTC still getting hit. 72,548. My wife is working at Celestica listening to this. Celestica 340. It's a lot of great year though. Celestica's had a freaking great year. Celestica, well, it's up 13% this year. Last year it had a great year, 190% over the past year. But would you add Nokia here? I think the pullback is still $13. But again, that's me being greedy. Like that's me waiting for a real dip. Don't tell me 1650 to 1520 is a dip. Like maybe that's like saying, you know, I don't know, ARM 330 to 315 is a dip. Like it's not a real dip. But nonetheless, you know, are you greedy enough to really get that actual pullback? And I don't know. This is why I'm saying, you know, we're talking about this rotation, but I'm like, is the market actually going to take the semis down to the level they need to be taken down for the software rotation to happen? Because you're starting to get some red candles on Salesforce, Shopify, Reddit, Zeta, and Palantir. And you're starting to get some green candles on, you guessed it, SMH, Micron, and ARM, which is once again what we've seen every freaking day for the past 2 months. Anytime the software names get a little bit of a move, it's because the semis are down. If the semis come back, look at Micron flipping green. Guess what's going red? Not officially red yet, but Microsoft 428 to 425 stopped right in its tracks as Micron goes. It's just so comedic how these algos. Wait, why SPY up? Oh, that's green. What's happening? U.S. and Iran reach deal but need Trump's final approval, officials say. U.S. and Iran reach deal but need Trump's final approval. Oil still, hold on, where is oil? Trump did not tweet about this yet. Interesting, the market's pumping off this. There's not any legit details yet. This is an Axios report. Let me check oil. Axios says right here, U.S. and Iranian negotiators have reached an agreement on a 60-day memorandum of understanding to extend the ceasefire that was announced on Sunday last night, or 2 days ago, and launch negotiations on Iran's nuclear program, but President Trump has yet to give his final approval. Okay, this was news that was reported on Sunday night, but it looks like it's becoming more official. This was reported Sunday night, these exact details of a 60-day moratorium for a ceasefire, 30 days of removing the mines from the Strait of Hormuz, and then the U.S. lifting the naval blockade, which seems to be the three elements of this Axios report. The street didn't take it as seriously Sunday night. It looks like they're taking it much more seriously right now. Oil is 88. Oil's 88. 88.50. 88.50 is what you've got on oil. So that's what we've got right there. 88 on, wow, 753.20 is what you're seeing on the S&P. Okay, so look, I think this is what the street needed. President Trump is currently reviewing the agreement before providing his final approval. Micron should be up on this. Micron 930. Are the semis up? Yes, space is still down. AMD just rocketed. Software kind of getting a bid right here. Still down from where it was during the highs. Microsoft still down from 428, but it is still green. If Rocket Lab flips green, Meta just flipped red. Interestingly enough, Nokia just got a little bit of a bid. S&P 753.99. Salesforce just went green. I think Trump will veto this. I don't think Trump's going to veto this. I think this is almost exactly what was reported on Sunday night. I think this means that whatever sources leaked the news about the framework of the deal on Sunday night had it right. And now it's just up to Trump to sign on the dotted line, which, I mean, at this point, if he doesn't, what more does he want? President Trump is currently reviewing the agreement before providing his final approval. This makes sense. Ceasefire, Strait of Hormuz opened, U.S. gets rid of the blockade, and then it opens up the path to negotiate on the nuclear weapons. So maybe if you want to get super bearish, Trump won't sign it because he's not getting like the legitimacy of uranium enrichment officially being destroyed in Iran. But if it gives him the path to get there, then I feel like that should be enough. Like I think I think that should be enough. Zeta is making its move right there. It's 2019, still down from 2027. Palantir's got to break 139.50 to get to intraday highs. Microsoft has to get another $1 to get up there. Meta somehow goes red. Rocky Lab goes red. Circle still red. Bitcoin should be up, right? 73. We're back over 73. That was a big move on Bitcoin. 72.5 to 73.2 within like 10 seconds. Trump probably doesn't want to accept it too quickly. That's fair. I think that's also why Trump said we're not going to be doing any sanctions relief. But okay, this seems to make sense. Let's see if I have coverage on this reporting right here. It looks like this is what the market was waiting for. Oil right now just below 90.
Iran, according to Axios, the U.S. and Iran have reached a deal, but they need the president's final approval. They need Donald Trump's final approval. As a result, you can see that Brent crude has come down substantially. If you take a look at the S&P 500, it has spiked to session highs. And this is a familiar pattern with Axios or others citing memorandum of understanding or some off-the-record reporting and saying that the U.S. and Iran have reached a deal, and then only hours later to have President Trump say it's a complete fabrication. And well, we still seem to hold at record high after record high. Let's talk about this with Mark Benedetti. He was recently promoted to co-CEO of Ardian. It's a private markets firm that manages $200 billion.
Positive that we're seeing right now is exits in private markets. That was kind of gummed up for a long time. That's coming back. You know, we're getting back to normalized levels, and it goes back to the rate cycle. Because if you're not
okay, so this is that's it. That's the Axios report. Wow, $12 million of calls were just bought on the SPY. Oh my goodness, dude, this is what I think the algos needed. This is what the algos needed. I think this is it. If we're going to make a run for it right here, this is the moment. S&P 753.30. Zeta's 4%. Microsoft, there it goes. 430 intraday highs. Meta still can't get a move. AMD, all-time high. Well, not all-time highs, but very close. 507. Shopify, almost 110. Ondas, almost 13. Figma, up 6. Google, this Google, almost 400. Google, well, almost 390. ARM almost 333, 9.4%. All of the high beta is making a move outside of space. Space is not participating. ASTS and Rocket Lab still red. But the semis are, the energy names are, the software names basically are. NVIDIA, 0.5% is better than nothing. UMAC, this is just crazy. 50%. Well, there you go. Trump's buying drone stocks. Market's buying drone stocks. UMAC right there. This was a $700 million company in the pre-market. Now $1.4 billion. As that goes green. Okay, so now we just need Trump to sign this thing. That's it. U.S. will lift naval blockades. U.S. and Iran reach a 60-day ceasefire. Iran must remove all Strait of Hormuz mines. Trump is currently reviewing the agreement before providing his final approval. You would imagine that Trump's, I mean, if he signs it today, either he's going to do a press conference for it or he's going to make a big Truth Social post. And that's when the market's really going to start to see if this is legit or not. Right now it's Axios, but it looks like this might end up being much more real once it's announced.
That would help too. Steve Leisman.
Getting some breaking news out of Washington this morning that might explain this leg higher. Let's get to Eamon Javers. Hey, Eamon.
Yeah, Carl, that's right. This is a report from Axios, which just broke within the past couple of minutes. And what Axios is reporting, unmatched by us as of right now, is that U.S. and Iranian negotiators have reached an agreement on a 60-day, what they're calling memorandum of understanding, that would extend the ceasefire between the two countries and launch negotiations on the Iranian nuclear program. Now, according to Axios, President Trump has not given that agreement his final approval. He wants a few days to think about it, according to Axios. So this is not something, if this reporting is accurate, that's happening imminently. But according to this report, Where we are is that the U.S. blockade would be lifted, the ceasefire would continue, negotiations would be ongoing in terms of the nuclear program. Remember, that was the reason for the war in the first place. And then as for the Strait of Hormuz, which is the key to all of this and to the global economy, Axios is reporting that U.S. officials are saying the 60-day MOU would state that shipping through the Strait of Hormuz would be unrestricted. Now, a U.S. official is asserting to Axios that this means that there would be no tolls and no harassment of vessels in the strait, and that Iran would remove all of the mines from the strait within 30 days. So that would be very bullish, Carl, and optimistic for the Strait of Hormuz if that is accurate. We don't see the Iranians signing off on that yet, and obviously no signal from the Iranians that they've agreed to anything like that. So we'll have to watch this space carefully, I think, and see if this is an agreement that the White House can agree to, and that, of course, Tehran can agree to, and if there's any kind of formal announcement. But it's obviously a bullish indicator in the short term that there may be a deal cooking behind the scenes that would at least pause the war and begin negotiations on the Iranian nuclear program. That would mean that if this is accurate, at the end of the day on this war, the president ultimately didn't get what he wanted, which is an immediate end to the nuclear program, but would reverse the damage of the closure of the Strait of Hormuz in the short term. And I think that's why markets might be responding to it right now, Carl.
This line is interesting, Eamon. The blockade will also be lifted, but that will happen in proportion to the restoration of commercial shipping, according to this official. That will be a very interesting balance to watch.
Yeah, and how do you define proportionality there is going to be an interesting question. How tight is that throttle that the Iranians want to keep on the Strait of Hormuz? I mean, remember, the Iranians in this war have discovered that they have an enormous new power, which is to control the Strait of Hormuz and potentially charge tolls for traffic through that strait. That's something they've never done before. This would give them an ongoing, unlimited revenue supply going into the future. They've been talking about the idea, the Iranians have, of a joint control with Oman on the other side of the strait, providing some sort of mandatory fees for ships that pass through the strait. The president has said as recently as yesterday, he doesn't like the idea of the Iranians charging fees or tolls or whatever you want to call them. Maybe it's tips, whatever it is, he doesn't like that. So how does that get resolved? Unclear. So I think there's a lot here to still be sorted out, including the president's main war aim in this war, which was the nuclear program. But if you are the oil market and you want to see ships sailing in the Strait of Hormuz, this certainly indicates that it might be a little bit closer than farther away, or at least closer than we thought it was an hour or two ago.
But which doesn't mean that the end game here isn't the end of Iran's nuclear program, right?
Right. I mean, what this would stipulate, Sarah, would be that there would be negotiations for the Iranian nuclear program, and those would be ongoing. It's unclear to me, though, just thinking this through, how you would force something at the negotiating table that you weren't able to force on the battlefield, right? If the U.S. military is not able to end the Iranian nuclear program once and for all with kinetic strikes, how are you going to do that at the negotiating table? I'm not sure there's an example in history where a country has failed in its war aims and then been able to achieve them at the negotiating table. But we'll see. I mean, it's complicated. There are a lot of different factors here, a lot of economic factors here. And one of the questions is, what kind of government does the government in Tehran want to be after the war? And so there's economic incentives for them to come into the community of nations, so to speak, and we'll see if they avail themselves of that.
Okay, thank you. I mean, President Trump's been very clear, Eamon, that he wants to see the end of the nuclear program. That's been the goal from day one. So will be interesting to see how he responds to this. Keep us posted. Eamon Javers from Washington. With the market moving, we're seeing highs of the day here for stock.
Does it last? Does it last? S&P is already fading from 753.99. 63% of you said the SAS green will last. Let's do another one. Will the Axios headline pump last? Will it last? Yes or no? What do we think? I mean, the only issue I have with this headline is it was exactly what was reported Sunday night, like almost word for word. So I mean, I don't know why the market would think there is something so brand new about this, especially if Trump hasn't signed it. I guess Trump is getting closer to signing it, which is why the market is getting more excited to buy. But I don't know. We're going to have to see. Yeah, once the deal's official, I think people will be heavily comparing it to the deal that they had, that Obama had as well. And, they're going to try to figure out which one was good, which one was bad. But I don't know. Time will tell once we end up getting this deal. At this point, I don't care if it was better than Obama's deal or not. I just want this thing to be over. And let's move on from this. But we got to see Robinhood up 3%. Robinhood up 3%. We got to see if we can crack 80 on Hood. Oracle 196. There's no way Trump signs this. Dude, if Trump doesn't, if a headline comes out saying Trump won't sign, like, I think we're down pretty heavy. Maybe, not 4 or 5%, but at least we give up this pump and then probably another 0.5% to 1%. Because at this point, I mean, NVIDIA just turned red. I mean, at this 214 down to 212. I mean, at this point, we would just be going right back into the quote unquote negotiations we've been having for 2 months now. So I think he's going to sign it. He's going to have to find a way to paint the uranium enrichment. Wow. Why is Synopsys down 7? They got upgraded across the board today. Good earnings. That stock down. But he's going to have to paint it as a way that he won when it comes to the nuclear stuff. SanDisk right there up 4. Even if that's not set in stone. Lilly, what's the headline on Lilly for all-time highs? What's the headline on Lilly? Lilly is planning to keep launching drugs globally despite uncertainty around U.S. most favored nation drug policy. CVS is expanding GLP-1 coverage across its common commercial formulas, including bringing Lilly's Zepbound back as covered medication. Okay, so CVS will continue to sell Lilly's GLP-1s. That's her headline. Lilly, are we close to $1 trillion? Wow, Lilly passed $1 trillion today. Has Lilly ever hit $1 trillion? How did we not even cover that? Lilly is now the number 15th largest company in the world. The stock still had a rough year. Year to date, it's up about 6%. Over the past year, it's up 60%. This is an all-time high. I don't think it's ever been $1 trillion company until today. Literally just passing $1 trillion right now. Or I guess it happened yesterday, yeah. Maybe it was like 1,050. And so now this is just a little bit higher. ASTS down 4%, but Lilly is $1 trillion. They've obviously, outperformed Novo. Reddit, that's getting a move. Almost 160. Shopify getting a move. AppLovin, almost 600. AMD. Meta finally coming back. Palantir, let's see if we can cross 139. Microsoft getting hit. Interesting. Microsoft rejected at 429.50. And as soon as it got rejected, Meta got the bid. Zeta getting a little bit of a bid. Is Micron still green? Micron's moving as well. It's space and a few select semis and softwares that are getting hit right now. Everything else, pretty much loving what Trump had to say or what Trump potentially will say. Nebius right there. That's up 5.8%. Even SoFi. I mean, every week it's like pumped up to 16, then just dropped. Holding on to 16. 1650. Why is ASTS down so much? I think it's just a space theme, but also ASTS, the stock was at $65. What was it? 3 weeks ago, right? So this one's also just had a massive, massive run. Celsius, a lot of insider buying. That's why that one's done really well, up 2.9. And that's why that stock is green. Founder Fund partner is saying their stake in SpaceX is worth $60 billion. Wow, they invested $20 million in 2008. $20 million to $60 billion. Founders Fund partner says SpaceX will be the largest IPO in history. So again, that tailwind for the space names is still on deck as we head into June. All right, folks, let's bring someone onto the show because it is Thursday, and let's get his thoughts on what's going on with the semiconductors, ladies and gentlemen. the person who I think understands the semis the best on this planet, Mr. What's up, man?
Stop it. You're going to make me blush, man.
Dude, how you been?
Pretty good. I'm a little mad at you. I'm not going to lie.
Okay, why are you mad at me?
Because yesterday I invited you to dinner at a restaurant in New York and you never responded.
You did?
Yeah, in the group chat. Maybe you might have missed it, but I was like, I guess this guy doesn't want to come out with me.
Dude, the chat's going to kill me for that. I definitely did not see this freaking...
I invited him, wanted him to meet the wife, wanted me to meet my best friend, but no response at all.
Hold on. He sent this message at 9:29 a.m. yesterday. Yo, Amit, I have a reservation. I might need one more person. I was ringing a cowbell at 9:29, and after 9:29, there was no way that notification was going to hit my phone. That's my fault. I probably wouldn't have even been able to come anyway, but we will definitely plan a dinner. See, now everyone's going to be freaking... See, I'm the villain. It's okay. We'll fix it. Now I got to pay for dinner. Next time we go. Okay, let's talk about AMD, because to be honest, you could pay for like the next 5,000 dinners with what's happening with this stock. Above 500, what is happening here? Is it the same old CPU story, just getting more momentum, and then we'll talk about Marvell? Or, I mean, is there an increased catalyst with what Jensen's been saying in Taiwan to get AMD up here?
I mean, I think for AMD, the CPU shortage is definitely helping it out. And I mean, we talked about it during the earnings call. We did that. Lisa Su kind of gave clarity that the CPU shortage was not going to be something that only lasts a few months, where it was something that is gonna last multiple years. So I think that was one of the big questions investors had with the CPU space. Then I would say in the earnings, we also got that clarity that they have new customers for multi-gigawatt expansion on their GPU side. And I do believe the market is excited, especially when you see companies like Anthropic making deals with everybody, right? They made that crazy deal with SpaceX. They made the crazy deal with, I forget who else. They made a deal with CoreWeave. And I forget who else they've made deals with here. But there's the potential of, if Anthropic needs this much compute and is going with everybody, why can't they work with AMD? Or why can't all the other companies that also need kind of this AI compute go work with AMD as well? So I think it's a double whammy right now in the CPU and GPU side for AMD.
So this CPU TAM that's increasing as aggressively as it is, and we have all these investor notes, sell side coming out and saying, you know, the TAM is hundreds of billions of dollars. You think because of agentic inference, there's no like fuzziness here? Like it's like legit, this is a really, really big market that AMD is going to capture.
Yeah, and again, I want to bring it back to AMD's earnings. And the reason is usually Lisa Su is a little bit more conservative on how she speaks, especially when you kind of give her, like, if she gives you a total addressable market. I mean, she still hasn't even given us a guidance in kind of the GPU space for them. So it kind of shows like the conservatism she has when giving numbers. And during the earnings call, she did mention that the TAM grew double versus what they thought was in October or November when they did an investor day. It went from 16% compounded annual growth rate to 32% compounded annual growth rate, from $60 billion to like over $120 billion or 130, I forget the actual number. So for me, Lisa Su saying it is massive because it does add a lot more weight. Obviously, Jensen, I would say, is good at what he tells you, but sometimes he's very excited about this industry. And it's like, I like that number, but I don't know the true truth to it. I feel like when Lisa Su says it something a little bit more, at least when it comes to numbers related, I take a lot more weight for it. So Lisa Su, 3 to 5 years, 32% compounded annual growth rate. I think it shows a lot of growth opportunity for the CPU space.
Okay, Marvell increased guidance, pretty damn good numbers. I know the stock is down, but obviously the stock has had a massive run. Did their earnings give you any more indication on where we are in the cycle of AI right now?
Yeah, I mean, they raised their guidance for this year, and they also they increased mainly their guidance for next year. If I remember correctly, I think they increased their guidance for fiscal year of 2028, which is calendar year of 2027 for them. So they're a year ahead by $1.5 billion. And the data center growth for them in this past year that just finished was 46%. For 2020, for this calendar year of 2026, they're guiding for 50% year-over-year growth. And now for next year, the year for calendar year 2027, fiscal year 2028, they expect 55% year-over-year growth on the numbers that they have right now. So for them, they're seeing this acceleration in the data center market. And if you're seeing that data center market acceleration, I think it continues to tell you that we're still early, maybe not very early, but we're still early in this AI cycle. If you expect to continue to grow at these massive levels for at least the next 2 years or 3 years. The final thing that I really did enjoy about them is they did announce a new tier 1 XPU customer for their custom business. I think that's going to start ramping next year. And they continue to make acquisitions in the networking space, right? So I think I've come to this channel a few times, and a lot of times, but when we talk about Marvell, I mentioned I created kind of like a networking ETF. And that was Credo, Astera Labs, and Marvell. And I think that's going really well. And the guidance, they mentioned that the interconnect solution is also growing extremely well. So that little ETF is doing extremely well right now.
How do you feel about their forward earnings guide? Trades at 64 times next year's earnings, 48 times the next year's after that. I mean, is that troubling, or is their growth going to just surpass the expectations to lower the multiple?
And to me, this is where it gets tricky, as I'm bullish in semiconductors, but I wouldn't be bullish in putting new money in. And this is for a lot of stocks, right? Luckily, we've talked about a lot of these companies when they were boring and they weren't seeing kind of that growth rate. And I would be more of like a hold term right now. If I was an analyst, I would give it a rating of hold, where this is a market that can continue to grow, but it's not a market I would sell out of because of that growth opportunity. But it's also not a market I would personally be buying new money in, mainly because of that valuation.
So, okay, so I want to spend some time on this. You are impressed by all the earnings you're seeing and the growth, and it keeps you optimism. But if you were a sell-side analyst, you can't put a recommend to buy on Marvell or AMD at 500 because it's just run too much. And so how do you kind of rationalize continuing to be bullish? Because if you're bullish, the stock should go up. So why not buy it? Or is there just too much risk associated with the run?
So my mind, when I buy something, right, I think about it at a risk to reward ratio. And I kind of, in my mind, I imagine it as a bar, right? And just because I'm not buying, it doesn't mean that the bar has gone completely up, that all the gains are going to go there. But it's like, now maybe the risk is, let's say, 60% and the reward is 40%. Like, there's still room for growth, but it's just like with my new money coming in, and especially with the gains, it's like, I don't want to expose myself more when I had the opportunity to do it earlier on. So it's like, I'm not chasing them. I'm happy I had a lot of these way beforehand. But I do think there are other opportunities for new money in the market. Now, maybe someone else, right, Amit, might have different risk to reward ratio. Maybe they don't mind it being already 60% priced in and 70% priced in. They still want to take it all the way to 100%. That's okay. And I think everybody just needs to find that risk to reward ratio that is okay with them.
Dell, is this legit or is this Trump pumping it? What do you think about this one right now?
I mean, to me, I've never been a huge fan of the server business, and it doesn't mean I'm bearish in it. It's just, it's not an opportunity I would go in. I mean, with the crazy demand, I mean, we just see, I forget who they just made a partnership with. Iran, I think, right? Iran just made a massive deal with Dell Technologies. So with the demand out there, you're going to see these winners, right? Dell Technologies, and fortunate for them, right? Supermicro has been a little bit iffy here and there. That also creates a little bit more of a bullish perspective on Dell versus maybe some of the other players. Dell, you also have kind of like the PC market and everything else. It's just not a market that excites me right now, but demand is real. And I do think we're going to continue to sell out on AI servers for at least the next 18 to 20 months.
Memory, Micron, a Trilly. Looks like it has a date with 1,000. I assume you're still not ready to buy these names. Has the UBS report of these 5-year strategic long-term agreements changed your mind about the durability of their growth?
I mean, it does change a lot, right? You have, I was kind of reading a lot of the transcripts from the conferences. This past week was a big conference, TMT, I forget what bank, but a lot of these memory companies are signing long-term contracts. And the way they're signing these long-term contracts is not at a fixed rate price, but they have kind of like a ceiling and also kind of a floor, which is really good. I think it's a nice mixture for both players. I do see this kind of valuation being different than historicals, but for me, it's like I guess I wish I would have seen it earlier. I'm not buying into it. What does get me a little bit excited, I'm not going to lie, for NVIDIA, right? NVIDIA is a $5 trillion company. And many people say, you know what, NVIDIA doesn't move because it's a $5 trillion company. But now if you have multi-trillion-dollar companies moving, right? Micron is now a $1 trillion company. Samsung is a $1 trillion company. SK Hynix is a $1 trillion company. I can't see that being a case, right? If you can move $3 trillion companies, is it really that impossible to move a $5 trillion company? So it's like there's still plenty of money here in the AI market. And I think for the big players, it's also showing that there's plenty of money in the sidelines that are able to move these types of plays.
Well, let's get into that conversation then. If it's not because it's a $5 trillion company, why do you think NVIDIA has been stuck for the past 2 weeks?
I don't know. The market is stupid, if that's the easiest thing. It is stupid. I mean, this is a company, projecting 90% growth on their next year over year, on this upcoming quarter, on revenue growth. That is wild. I mean, they have massive free cash flow. They're giving us shareholders a decent dividend. They're not stopping innovation. Vera Rubin is going to be a beast, and that hasn't even come out yet. Second half of this year, the CPU market is growing. They have storage solutions, other types of solutions. Something needs to happen. It's going to happen. I do think right now we're trading at forward PE ratios of roughly 21 based on analyst expectations. And analysts are completely wrong most of the time, especially with NVIDIA, even though they follow it so closely. That to me means that the forward PE ratio is definitely trading lower than for the next 12 months, below 20. Just a multiple expansion is not impossible. It's not impossible. And that could be like a 30% return for the stock. So I'm very comfortable with NVIDIA. Eventually the market wakes up and says, Jose, you were right for calling us stupid. Let's see what happens in the next 12 months with this player.
Jose's Twitter right there in the chat. Please make sure to follow him on X. Also, What the Chip Happened. That is his newsletter. Please make sure to check that out, as once again, the chip is happening. Jose, Jensen last night in Taiwan did say something, and I feel like if anyone knew what he was talking about, it might be you. Quote, "We have a surprising new product that we haven't told anyone about yet. We will announce it later." Any idea?
Yeah, I mean, this is fun. If to me, there's two possibilities. The first one is we have Computex this upcoming week with NVIDIA's GTC. So hopefully, and NVIDIA has a GTC Taiwan as well happening this week with Computex, or next week. Sorry, I think it starts Monday. Usually Computex is also focused on like laptops, desktops, and kind of consumer tech. So I wonder if it's a consumer-based product, but I don't think Jensen would bring too much excitement on that. So first, is it a new consumer-based chip for laptops, maybe something to help out some of the shortages? The other thing is Jensen is moving big companies and has a massive supply. Does he have a new product or a new solution for some of the shortages happening in the industry? We know that they have kind of like a storage system. We know there's an energy issue happening in the overall market right now. So my hopes is more something to kind of battle the current shortage. So hopefully we will hear about it in about a week. But if it is an AI laptop, it's cool, but I would obviously love something in the data center space.
Do you think it would be anything around innovation with memory or copper optics? Anything there? NVLink?
If it was to me, I think on top of his list is something in the memory space, right? I think that's where the biggest innovation he would love to push. And with his, it doesn't even have to be regarding HBM. It could deal with other type of memory solutions, maybe just a form of memory controller to help efficiencies. It could just be something to help the efficiency of memory itself. It doesn't even have to be a competitive product. But to me, I would say something on top of his list would be more the memory space, because in all honesty, I don't think NVIDIA has made a lot of investments in all the shortages. But one of the shortages I haven't really seen much of investment in chat. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe you guys can let me know. But I haven't seen a public investment in the memory space.
Yeah.
Right. We've seen the optic space. We've seen the Neo Cloud space. We've seen various types of interconnects.
Why wouldn't they invest in memory? If the media every day tells us it is literally the most important thing for the AI trade, why wouldn't Jensen be supporting it with $1 billion, which is nothing? They have hundreds of billions in cash.
Yeah, the only thing I would say is maybe he just has so much long-term agreements with them, and that's the investment he does. Like that's enough for the memory players, right? The memory players probably don't need his money outside of those long-term agreements. And probably massive amount of prepayments, as we saw the company has almost $120 billion in prepayment.
So I have a question. So Micron has 80% gross margins right now. Are you telling me NVIDIA is not paying the 80% gross margin?
I would expect no, right? Because we haven't really heard. There has to be some form of growth, right? But I think NVIDIA, due to the massive volume and due to them probably making massive long-term agreements, one of NVIDIA's massive moat, in my opinion, is also their crazy balance sheet. They are the ones that can go up to them and say, look, we are going to prepay for this much or for this long. And a company would be like, yes, I'll gladly take that prepayment, even if it might be a lower margin, because it secures my capacity, at least for the next 3 to 4 or 5 years or whatever.
So then who's paying the 80% margins?
Everybody else.
Everybody else?
AMDs, the Googles, the Broadcoms, everybody else. I mean, I would say NVIDIA is definitely paying a premium compared to what they did before. And we see it in the consumer space, right? If you look at some of NVIDIA's consumer products, they made like this TGX laptop for the data center space. When it first came out, I think it was $4,000. Now, if you try to buy it, it's about $4,600. And the main reason is the price increase in DRAM. If you look at their at their consumer-based GPUs, but in the consumer space, I do believe there's a lot less volume that they have for the data center space, right? I think for the data center stacks, they move billions, right, probably per day on that. So there's some form of, I guess, coupon for NVIDIA, but I don't know if it's a crazy coupon.
Yeah, and it's a fair point because look, if they wanted his money to get up more memory fabs. I mean, technically, I think Jensen would be willing to give them a couple $1 billion to set up more memory fabs, but they know that would mess with their prices. So instead, they'd rather say, "Hey, Jensen, we'll sell you memory at 60% margins. We don't need you to invest in us to build out more capacity because we really like the 85%." SK Hynix is the 85% margins that we can get from Google and Amazon and the rest of those guys.
And I think for Micron and all these players, you also don't want to get the biggest player too mad too quickly, right? You don't, because then it forces him to think a little bit more about that space. But if you like just kind of bother him a little bit, increase margins a little bit, he's like, all right, maybe I don't need to worry about this space right now. So there obviously has to be some form of politics and thinking of, hey, look, if I mess with my biggest customer too much, does that put me at risk for a future competitor?
Right. CoreWeave and Nebius, I imagine you continue to be bullish. I know CoreWeave has taken a hit since earnings. Nebius has done nothing but go up. They got that new Leopold stake. Is there a better buy in your opinion right now between CoreWeave and Nebius, which I think Nebius has surpassed their market cap? Nebius is $2 billion underneath CoreWeave right now.
First, let me just say I'm so happy for you, Nebius shareholders. So happy. You guys, congratulations. No, I mean, first, obviously, teasing. There's that meme that's like that angry kid that says congrats.
Dude, I'm trying to find it. I saved it. Yeah, this is really what Jose looks like when he says, "I'm happy for you, Nebius shareholders." This is a
that's exactly
Jensen
it.
After earning. This was Jensen saying Micron hit $1 trillion. This is exactly how
it is. I think there's some misprice happening in CoreWeave. I do believe there's the case because you're telling me you're valuing CoreWeave at the same market cap. I mean, Nebius is the same market cap of CoreWeave, even though CoreWeave has X times, not just like few like points at like 1 point, like factors like 2x, 3x times more active power right now. Revenue is marginally higher. They're building kind of in one quarter. They built about 300, 400 megawatts of active power. And this is like the sizes of CoreWeave that they have right now. I think there's some mispriced action happening. Overall, I think the whole NeoCloud space is very exciting. I think we're going to continue to see a massive shortage. Anybody who has data centers up are going to be able to charge good prices. The prices are going to be better than kind of like what they modeled before. Last time we came here, or a few times after Iran reported earnings, I mentioned that I thought the partnership with NVIDIA was extremely well. So with the three players, I'm pretty excited for CoreWeave, Nebius, and Iran. And to me, one thing that I feel I tend to do is I tend to like the stocks. And sometimes I get early. I feel like I beat the market. I get there too early and I'm all alone for like a few months. I'm like, I know it's going to happen. It's going to happen. I'm hoping that's what's happening here with CoreWeave. I'm hoping I'm a little bit earlier to the market. Maybe 6-7 months from now, I'll be very happy with my CoreWeave play. But overall, pretty bullish for the NeoCloud market. I saw we have a NeoCloud ETF. I was watching your stream earlier this morning. We have a NeoCloud ETF coming. So there's definitely excitement for this space. I mean, first, let me just complain. Let me just rant a little bit. Nebius goes up because potentially they might get a contract with Anthropic, right? They potentially might get a contract with Anthropic. The stock goes up, but CoreWeave that actually has a deal with Anthropic is like, I don't know. I don't think you're that good. Yes, they do. It's like.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, they announced on like I think a month ago a deal with Anthropic. And Anthropic has just been buying from everybody, but it's like we're buying on potential deals when a company hasn't actually. Okay, enough of a rant.
Now
Congratulations,
you finally know what a software investor feels like this year. Finally, now you know the pain. But no, to your point, I think it makes sense. I mean, at the end of the day. Yeah, I think even Tanner's been making this point that I mean, he's a big Nebius bull, but the market cap dislocation between both is a little weird. They don't have as much debt as CoreWeave, but then again, that debt is leading them to grow, which is kind of the big thing. Oracle right there. Speaking of NeoClouds, almost 200.
Nice.
We're seeing that pass through.
Yeah.
I mean,
okay,
for Oracle,
with Oracle, they have the database. They have like a storage database system as well that I think would actually do really well. I think that can help surprise earnings expectations. So I don't know when this one reports earnings, but it's one I'm definitely going to be keeping a closer eye on.
By the way, people wanted more out of your rant, so I've conditioned them to 30-minute rants. So next time you got to do at least 30 seconds for the rants if you're going to go on a rant. Okay, last question for you, Oracle passing 200 right there. What is a sector or few stocks in the semi space in general that you're looking at right now? Is there anything different outside of your main winners or anything you're trying to develop a position in, or just stick with
Let's see. I'm trying to focus more on because now let's see in shortages in the substrate side, wafer side, and still in the energy play some way. So let's see. I've messaged you about it in the past. One that I'm looking at is Amtech, ticker ASYS. It's a super small company, but that's what I'm looking for. They deal with equipment. This is an equipment manufacturer that deals with advanced packaging solutions. They have like the ovens that help cook up pretty much the advanced packaging play. So plays like that. There's also a few companies in the substrate. We hear that advanced packaging and substrates are still a major issue. There's a lot of shortages in the industry. I'm just trying to find something that unfortunately hasn't run up like crazy. In forms of my only of buying right now, of my main plays, CoreWeave is definitely one in my list right now. After that mini rant, I see so much opportunity in this one. And then the boring plays, Meta and Microsoft. I think Meta and Microsoft are two of it. NVIDIA with the forward PE ratio of below 20. In my estimates, are all looking pretty attractive. They're boring plays. They're not a multi-bagger from here on out, but I think they still outperform the market in the long term. CoreWeave, I do see as a multi-bagger, but congratulations, Nebius shareholders.
All right. I love it. Jose, thank you. I will follow up with you tonight, and I will take you and the wife out to dinner. So we will absolutely make this happen soon.
You guys hear him. You guys heard him. He's taking me out. I'll let you guys know if he ever does that.
Dude, but why would you message at 9:29 a.m.? Like, it's like the worst possible time for me to check a message. But no, I will. We'll make sure we'll go out to dinner.
All right, peace out, man, and take
All
care.
right,
Chat.
bro. Thank you. You can follow Jose on Twitter. Jose, we'll see you next week. Thank you, brother. All right, folks. All right. I think that is pretty much it here for today. You got all the semis continuing the pump. This Axios pump is not officially materialized, but the pump is still there, almost at 753. We were at 753.99 as soon as the news came out. Robinhood 78 really ignoring Bitcoin today, I guess on the Trump account headline. SMCI busting through 40 as as Dell. The reason I said that is because someone said it in the chat. It's not like I was thinking about that. I'm looking at the chat, trying to talk at the same time. Someone said Grindr date, so I said Grindr instead of Dell. It's not because I was thinking about it. Dell at 317. That's why I think SMCI is getting some love. SMCI, again, bottomed at around 19 back in, what was this? Back in April when they had the Singapore controversy of smuggling chips. And so, although that was a bad thing for the company, you know, market's been able to overlook that. Salesforce right there, 179, and then Zeta at $20. What do you mean caught in 4K? He's bringing his wife. How can it even be a Grindr date? Like, it's so ridiculous. And like, yes, I said it because I was looking at the chat, and sometimes I say what I'm looking at versus what I'm thinking. But that he's literally bringing his wife. It's not possible for it to be a Grindr date. This is ridiculous. Rainbow emojis. We made this rainbow emoji a thing now. Goodness gracious. Are you the wife? Dude, I literally didn't see the message. And I'm looking back like 9:29, really, the one time of the day where I'm probably not going to look at my phone. That's when he texted me. He set me up for that, dude. He set me up. He's like, I'm going to text him when I know he can't see it. And then I'm going to clown him the next morning. Because I texted him this morning. He was like, what do you want to talk about today? And I texted him all these topics. Not once did he bring up this text message that apparently he literally, he's good, bro. Jose is a master troll. That's why I was caught off guard when he mentioned it. I was like, what are you talking about? Micron right there. 934 as that continues to go green. Oracle 202, baby. Oracle pumpy pump. Pick this up at 135 in the SaaS apocalypse, April 13th. Bought a little bit more at 165. Haven't added since then. But Oracle right here is starting to get some love. 202 as the neoclouds continue to go green. All right. That is it for me. We will be back on the market close. We got a bunch of earnings that we'll be looking at today. Dell, UiPath, Okta, MongoDB, Costco, Gap, American Eagle, Ambarella, and Autodesk. So we got a lot of companies that we will take a look at later throughout the day. Overall, the big headline is this Axios report. Hopefully it ends up getting resolved and Trump signs it. Maybe he signs it later today and everything pumps. It helped Bitcoin as soon as the report came out. Maybe the signature will continue to help Bitcoin. But relatively green day across the board, even with software, fintech, and semis getting a little bit more of a move. All right, that is it. Let's do word of the day. We are back on a new streak. The streak ended yesterday with apotheosis. I called it apotheosis, and I got that one wrong. But it was a 10-day streak, so... Okay, this one's too easy. You guys aren't going to believe this one. See, I'm not prompting it. It said, give me another one. It said diffusive. I need to say, give me another one because it's a little too easy. You guys are going to think I prompted it to be easy. Okay, this is a better one. Mendacious. Not telling the truth, dishonest, or deceitful. The report wasn't just optimistic. It felt outright mendacious. Mendacious. Okay, let's see if this is correct. This is not too hard, but it's also not as easy. You cheated on the past 9 days. I literally prompted, give me another one every single time. There's no way I could have been cheating. Mendacious. Okay, let's see. Were you being mendacious about Harvard and the dentist and that one girlfriend? Dude, you guys, I was talking about with my mom the other day. Like, I did get waitlisted from Harvard. I don't know how to freaking prove it. I showed you guys that one email from 2015. I don't have the Harvard email anymore because they have this like portal that expires after 30 days for all the new applicants. But I did get waitlisted. I'm actually very high. I think I would not become a YouTuber and build a finance media brand or become an investor if I ended up going to Harvard. I think I would have been down a different life path. So I'm happy I didn't get in, but I did get waitlisted. I almost got in. And then they rejected me after 2 months. So it did indeed happen.
Mendacious.
Okay. Streak starts again. The streak starts again for Mendacious. Yeah, IGV and SMH going up to, wow, look at the S&P. Look at the S&P. It's actually helping everything. Are we dreaming SMH and IGV up together? Look at that. IGV up 2. Where's Palantir? Palantir 138.15. NVIDIA just went green. CoreWeave went green. Nebius went green. Oracle's green. S&P very close to 754. And then SMH up 0.5%. Oracle 203 as well. Robinhood potentially pushing 80. Is this the pivot point where we actually start to see everything go up? Is this it? Jerusalem Post. The supreme leader in Iran did not approve the agreement, and this is one of the reasons Trump did not say yes yet. Jerusalem Post, the supreme leader in Iran did not approve the agreement, and this is one of the reasons why Trump did not say yes yet. Okay, hopefully both sides decide to approve it because the market is pricing it in, and we're going up across the board. Oil still below 90. So hopefully in the next 24 hours, we get some updates on this and both sides are ready to officially agree. All right, that's it for me. Thank you everybody for being here. I'll be back on the market close. We'll keep going from there. And we'll get through the earnings that we have later throughout the day on the market close. Thank you everybody. Appreciate it. I will see you guys in a few hours. Bye everybody. Have a good one.